Hello all.
Hey guys, I'm having a little problem with my audio.
I just got dropped out then for some reason.
I see my Zoom died. Okay, so
Did I just boot everybody or just me?
oh,
Yes. Can you hear me?
hello. Well, I did sort of drop out, so I thought it was just that I'd done something.
It may or may just come back or just joined.
I joined about maybe 10 minutes early, and maybe being the first one, I don't know. When I went to disconnect my phone, I just went for the first red button and then realized too late it said, like, finish for everyone. I'm like, no! Better now than later, I guess.
Yes.
Allegedly. I'll be back in a second.
G'day, folks. Apologise for being late. Hello, Peter. Good to see you, mate.
Hi.
Hi there, Les.
G'day, Paul, Scott, Bob,
All right.
Hello.
Lex. How you going, Lex?
Yeah, pretty good.
Are you still down south?
Still in Denmark.
Oh, mate. Fantastic, eh? Living the dream.
It's a hard life, but somebody's got to do it.
Good on you, mate.
Does anyone know how to tell VirtualBox that I want the menu on the top of the screen?
Virtual box. Oh, I don't know about that.
One.
You mean like the what menu?
No, just the menu, like, you know, you've got your shutdown menus or your screen menus or your whatever menus.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, VirtualBox, sorry.
Yes.
My brain went to DOSBox.
All right, I think I'm back in action. I'm having a lot of problems with my headset, though. I'm just going to have to speak really loud. Really annoying.
It sounds all
I
right
can
then.
hear you right now. Well, I was actually just speaking loudly.
Yeah, I'm speaking quite loudly, which, yeah.
I don't use VirtualBox, but I use VmWare. You can move that around, I think, to the side and to the top, but you can't. Don't know if you can get it to the bottom. I've never tried that.
Yeah, so, well, VirtualBox, you have a bunch of different menus for how to, for example, just in the view drop down. So, you know, menu with different drop downs, right? So the view submenu, you've got about, I don't know, depending on sort of 8 to 10 different ways of doing it, like if it scales or if it changes the resolution, and if you know, things like that, full screen or windowed. But yeah.
I'm a big fan of VMware's server, but I'm hearing really bad things lately. They've been bought out by some big company, and they're basically going to screw customers like crazy, jacking up the prices, forcing everyone to go to a subscription plan instead of a paid plan, really heavily jacking up the prices. So a lot of big companies that have like thousands of computers on them are saying, "Hey, this is crap. We
good.
get out of there." Problem is
They don't
they're kind of locked out.
They're
It's
not
very
going to make
difficult
money that way. Like they don't make friends that way, you know?
No, it's a company that's known for buying computer companies and then just screwing over their customers.
That sounds like Microsoft.
So they like technology where the customers are kind of locked in. They really can't escape. And they also sort of go, well, if we don't get any more customers, that's okay. The existing customer base is big enough, and they're not really going to be able to go anywhere else. So you're talking about prices upwards of 10 times what they were pricing. Really going through the roof. Yeah.
Oh, well, I lose my customer then.
Yeah. Well, I'm not happy because I've got a lot of VMs. I've probably got about 20 different VMs.
Yeah.
All running on VMware servers. So I won't be happy. So at the moment, I'm trying to buy my license renewal to make sure I've at least got it for the next year before I have to worry about this.
They just allow you. They just license the for the machine. So you'll be okay if you only just got the one license. You can have as many VMs as you want, but as long as you're just using the one machine.
Yeah, you just pay for the VMware software.
But if it's 10 times for the one machine, I mean, it's not much fun, is it?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you got some companies that have thousands. If you're like a university or something, you've got thousands of virtual PCs running, usually in some sort of cloud or a data center. Yeah. And then all of a sudden they're charging you per VM or they just jack up the overall price. But not just a little subtle increase in price, massive increases.
I mean, that sounds to me like they just want to make a lot of money, hard and fast. The product's dead, but they made their score. That's it.
Yeah. I think the product's dead. I mean, it's probably one of the most, right up there in a top couple of virtualization technologies. So they've got a massive customer base.
Yeah, it's fabulous technology.
I mean, that means that if they took 1 year to kill off the product, like if they got 1 year's worth, that's 10 years of the income now. Some of them might last for a couple of years, so they might be looking at, and many will drop off immediately. But means that they'll get 10 years worth of income, and the product's dead within a couple of years, and then that they've made the money.
Yeah.
So the company's Broadcom, right? So Broadcom bought VMware. They bought VMware for $69 billion. That's probably US, I imagine. So 100.
Broadcom are the people who make. They're the people who make they make a lot of stuff. They make the Raspberry Pi as well. Broadcom. Or maybe
they're known for just buying a lot of technology companies. So they've got a pretty big stable of companies under them.
I wonder if maybe they want the virtualization software, and by getting the money now, they also kill it off so that they get to keep it for themselves, and they can just, how do I say this?
I think they're just reliant on the fact that the customers are pretty much locked in.
Right.
Once you've picked your virtualization software, it's difficult to move off that.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, the price increase I'm seeing 1,200%, 12 times the current price.
Really? Sure.
So, I mean, I used to use Parallels, and then I switched away from Mac. And Parallels had stopped. Parallels was great.
Yeah, I like that.
It used to be Parallels for Windows as well, but by the time I left the Mac, it was only for Mac. So then I converted my VMs, and that, like, I was able to at the time convert them.
Right.
But there are certain standards one can convert.
You might be able to get out of it by converting the VM back into a machine, and just use that to get your 20 machines into something else, and then go for one of the freebies around the place, because they're getting pretty good too. Some of the
Well, see, you've got another problem. If you imagine you're a company with a large number of virtual machines, each one with installed software on their databases, all sorts of things. If you just say, right, well, I'm gonna back up that virtual PC, restore it to some other, either a real PC or another virtualized PC. Guess what happens to all those licenses, right? They trigger and go, nope, that's a different machine. You've got to, if you had software that licensed the other machine, now you've got to buy software that licenses the other virtual machine that you've moved to. All of your Windows licenses, right? They're not going to move over. Windows licenses are usually locked to a PC instance, a virtual machine instance. So if you just say move it to another one, it'll go, oh, no, that's definitely a different PC. You got to buy Windows all over again. It's not. So it's all, everything, every bit of software you've got on there, you've got to go, okay, relook at the licenses, possibly relicense things. Yeah, it's not pretty.
This is the legal department looking at all the gotchas, eh?
Yeah, well, like I say, they just realized they've got a locked-in customer base. A lot of these companies, even though the price are jacking up by 12 times, they're still going, well, it's too difficult and expensive to move off that quickly. So even if they go, okay, we can get off, but it's going to take us, 2 or 3 years. Well, they've got to pay 12 times for that first year. So what they paid last year, they've got to pay 12 times that just for that first year, and then maybe they can get off it the year after or the year after that. But if you,
Scott, what about people who use VMware Player? Are they affected?
I don't know. Everything's up in the air, and you can't trust the thing they say, basically. So you just have to Google around for it. I'm hearing things at the moment that they're going to let the low end, the individual standalone, like on one PC, like VMware Player or VMware Server. I wouldn't be surprised though if they start making VMware Player will probably still be available, but you might find they start dumbing down the features, switching off all sorts of features to make it more difficult to use. So,
what about Workstation? Are they still not tinkering with Workstation? You can still.
I don't know. Most of the price increases so far seem to be focused on the big, like, data center. You're running some massive machine. You're running 100 different virtual machines on that. They have different VMware software that runs that. VMware Workstation, or also called VMware Server, is what you normally run on, just one PC, like we're doing. I wouldn't trust them. I think they're going after the big end of town first of all. But when they're finished with that, you might finally come after the other ones. So they have a reputation as being, heavy on the pricing, and they like to have locked in customers that they're buying the customer base and then they just squeeze it. So you imagine with that 12 times price, if some company goes, well, we don't like you anymore, we're getting out. It's like, but you're still going to pay that 12 times for the next 12 months. Right. It's not like you can just flip a switch and suddenly move from one data center to another, different virtual machines.
It's crazy, really, because they can keep making money because their prices are pretty reasonable now. They're pretty high now, so they're probably making a good profit. So why would you kill the golden goose?
Well, I think they also have great products. I really like VMware Server. I've used, I think, 3 different Windows virtualization software over the years, and by far the VMware one's the one that I like best.
It's stable. It's great. You can run all the stuff. It's just amazing. You can
all
run
my Delphi installs probably
the
last 10 years are all on virtual machines, and it's great if they if something screws up on the machine, I just tell it to flash back to an earlier snapshot, and bam, everything's back. I don't have to even back up to separate drives or anything. It's just
it's smart stuff, isn't it?
Click a button and flash it back.
Yeah, I've got mine on a little, little small drive, so you can just take it any machine at all. It's got off you go.
Right. I'll show you something. I've been buying a couple of these lately. This little guy here.
Oh yeah.
It's a PC on a stick.
Oh,
So the only inputs here, you've got basically a USB power going in. Doesn't draw much power. I think it's just like standard 5 volt, maybe 12. Output there, you just got an HDMI output. So you take this, plug it into a TV or a monitor, plug that into a USB power
box, yeah,
and you're up and running. You got a PC. There's no keyboard. That's you use well, it's got a USB slot there, so you can run a USB or stick in a USB hub in there.
All right, yeah.
But the idea was typically running wireless with everything. So you just plug that in the back of a monitor, have a wireless keyboard, wireless mouse, and the whole thing's just that stick. They tend to be a bit pricey. They're around like $200 to $400, but I bought 3 of them off eBay for about $80. I just bought a couple of them, just thinking at some point I might have use for them.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Use them for now, but yeah.
What about things like Windows 11 and things like that? Will they kind of run that, or are they?
Yeah. So it's just a PC on a stick, just like a regular
but
PC.
How much RAM has it got?
Oh, it's not huge. I'll just have a quick look on the specs.
And you plug your SSDs as an external drive, I assume.
Yeah, well, it's got a bit of storage. Some of them are saying, oh, that's 2015. They had 32 gig. It'd be a lot more since then. There's a lot of different models. So if you look for Wintel Stick,
Stick, yeah.
I actually switched my main computer from being a tower to an NUC. So that's
what's that?
That's just that's about the same size as a Mac Mini.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
And I've got 64 gig of RAM. It's got an i7 and but 8 terabytes,
right?
6 to 8 terabytes of SSD in it as well. That's my main development machine these days.
Oh.
So I just looked up the specs. They stopped making these in 3 years ago. The last model supports Windows 10, 32 gig onboard, upwards of 4 gig memory. But yeah, the idea is basically you plug things into it. If you want more storage, you plug it into the USB slot.
Lex, that's a bit interesting. What NUC was that? Was that
It was an Intel one, but these NUCs have been taken over by another company. Intel sold a division to another company. I can't remember who they are. I'll have to go and have a look for you. But it was a genuine Intel NUC that I bought a bit over a year ago, and I've been using it as my main development system ever since.
No problem with heating or anything?
Sorry, go ahead.
It does get warm, but hasn't caused me any massive problems so far.
Yeah.
What was the name of that one, Lex?
It's an NUC. I'll just go and have a look and see if I can give you more details about it. Hang on.
It's just a nice cheap way of doing
it. It's basically an Intel version of a Mac Mini.
Right.
Yes. I
just
that's right. It's only about like a square decimeter and then maybe 4 or 5 centimeters tall.
Yeah.
Well, mine is anyway, but that's like 10 years old.
Yeah. What were we going to say, Scott?
I just quickly looked up NUC PC and there's a whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
But all similar things, sort of 10 centimeters square, 4 or 5 centimeters tall.
There are. I've got 2 HDMI monitors off it.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Good.
I mean, you used to see. I mean, you see them in shopping centres behind the. You got the screen and the computer's actually behind the screen.
So if you're running like someone's like a cafe and they're running a menu and it's all kind of animated and stuff, it's probably just a PowerPoint slide running off one of those stuck in the back of a TV.
Well, actually, it's probably running off your little PC, Scott, rather than an NUC, because an NUC is probably more than you need.
Yeah, well, this thing's, it's not huge specs, but at the same time, it's probably more specs than what we had 10 years ago.
Can you put it in the
and a
camera?
PC 10 years ago could do almost everything that I need to do today.
Yeah.
There's no camera built in, but the idea is just it's got Bluetooth built in.
Yeah.
No, sorry, Scott, could you put that near your camera?
Yeah, bit hard to get focus on that.
No, it's good.
So yeah, it's about, what's that, 10 centimeters wide. So it's just got, stick that into an HDMI port, stick that into power, and you're up and running. And then everything else is Bluetooth keyboard, Wi-Fi. It's got Wi-Fi built in. So yeah, but you can still pick them up. They don't. You might need to sit there for a week or two before you pick them up on eBay. But I bought 3 of them within about a month.
Yeah, pretty good.
The main limitation probably is the CPU, because my NUC's got an i7 in it, but those little devices are much more underpowered compared to mine. And you said you had 4 gig of RAM, didn't you?
Yeah, there's some of them have got Atom chips, some of them have got Intel Core M5s.
Yeah.
So there's I think 6 or 7 different models just of that one. But that's just one type. There's other companies putting out similar things.
They run Windows
for,
or Linux?
For more powerful
Windows.
CPUs, you really need to go to NUCs, and from what I understand.
Yeah, NUCs.
So I've seen mine running just running basic things. If you just want to do a bit of web browsing, or you want to run some PowerPoint slides on a TV at a cafe.
Absolutely, it'd be good for
that'll
that.
do fine. Instead of spending a lot for a PC, just have one of those, stick it in the back.
Yeah.
But I was thinking of going down the Lex path, because that makes a lot of sense. If you only want to develop on Windows 11, just to have that as a facility, you can still use the old boxes and all for doing all your storage and everything. So you can still talk to all that, to the old stuff. So you can have your VMs on the old box and talking to Windows 11, because it's only storage, so it doesn't care.
Look, I think the other key thing is, if you're running Delphi in a virtual machine, you can just move it to all these boxes as you feel like it, without blowing it up your licenses.
Yeah, that's right.
So I have mine on a. I usually copy it to my laptop so I can run it off there, but I can also put it onto an SSD and then plug it into any PC.
Yeah.
Just
that's what I've been doing.
Take it with me.
It's fantastic, really. You can put everything on there. You put your development stuff for the databases and everything on the same VM, and it's all, So if they go out of business, I'm in a bit of trouble.
What stuff we got to talk about, Paul? You had a bunch of topics to go through.
Sorry, I apologize for being what I didn't want to be, a bit frazzled and disorganized, because I got a phone call from the Mrs. Boss to go to daycare right in the hour before the meeting. I was like, ah! So I'm playing catch up. But one thing I was going to mention is there were a couple of people who could have, we need one ear off, could have potential. Can everybody hear okay?
Yep.
Couple of people who could have potentially joined today. One is Kevin. God damn it. In the UK, in their school system, in the, I guess, high school system, they do, or have been doing Delphi. And Kevin Bond, he's published a whole bunch of books on teaching Delphi. Whole textbooks. And he's moved to Sydney. I think he's there now, and said he was interested to join. I told him about
from
the time.
Sydney or to?
Yeah. I told him about the time difference, but anyway, moving from England, so anything could have happened. He's also writing a book for John, on Cortex, like a
For John and Anderson?
Essendon, yep.
Yeah, right.
And yeah, he's writing a. He said it was initially going to be, I think, out before December, but then John got like a serious funding, or more serious anyway, like concrete funding arrangement from something like, I think it's a job for him now, and I think designs got kicked up a notch, and so they've pushed the book down the what do you call it, down the road a little bit, because they didn't want it to be out of date when it was printed, basically. Excuse me. And I already told Scott this story, but I've been going, I mentioned to Peter a little bit, been going to, so in the last roughly about a year, even though I kind of hated the idea of like going into Perth, I been going to several of the Python WA meetups and newly formed Rust WA meetup. They're in a couple of buildings in St. George's Terrace, and parking at the convention centre, walking about a block, and the Python one is interesting. We could, if you go to the meetup page, you'll see the sort of like, they get about 30, 40, maybe more people going there. But the very first one I went to was on graph networks, 2 different talks on graphs and graph database and that sort of thing. That was cool. Then they've been talking about Django and sort of like, what do you call, like data visualization, and so obviously these people I think have got a focus, towards machine learning, corporate type stuff. It's a bit of a different crowd. But I had, on the second one I went there, I'd sat down, there was two talks with like 5 or 10 minutes in between. Sat down, a guy sat next to me, and then in the break, like just chatting, like, you're a programmer? No, I've gone into like management stuff, working, I thought it was Lidl, but turns out to be Murray Street. And like, he asked me, what's your background? Like, well, when I was young, it was like BASIC, Turbo Pascal, and he was like, oh, I love Delphi. And I was like, what? That's my language. I was like, but then the talks were starting to, like, get back underway, sort of thing. It was like, breathe, calm, settle, don't hump the guy's leg. It's not good in public, just
that thing. Come to
just settle.
meetings.
Just settle. And then I, like, at the end of the meeting, I think he was talking to somebody, and I had to get home, but I kind of remembered, I think, the place he worked for, and then found that online, and then, like, the people that work for us, like, yep, that's him. And then I think we connected on LinkedIn, and the guy was like, yeah, I'd love to come to a meeting and this sort of thing, and maybe we can have meetings at their work in town. And if I can I share screen?
Yep.
Not at the moment. Host disabled screen sharing. I'm not host, am I? That'd be probably you, Scott.
I thought I'd made you host. Give me a second. Well, it's on my mind. I've just made you co-host. I need to get you set up to see if you get access to my account, so that way you can start meetings without having to rely on me. Did this meeting auto start, actually?
When I logged in, yeah, I was the only person, and it started, and it said it was recording from
okay,
from the first second.
So I didn't have to wait for me to start it, just auto started. Okay.
No, we use this stuff a lot now, Zoom, and most of the meetings I've set up to automatically start. So whoever gets there first starts the meeting,
Right.
although they don't have permissions to do other things. But we leave them pretty open, and so they still they go to the meeting, they start the meeting, and you just turn up when you turn up.
Yeah, the problem is there's so many options on the meetings. It's easy to screw them up. I've had another conference where I set up. I was supposed to set up to auto record, and there were like 6 different streams running. I did all of them, but one of them I screwed up, and it didn't record the whole day's session. So yeah, it's
fun
once
stuff.
you get it working, you want to just leave it. I've even taken like screenshots of it, so if I come back in a year's time, I can try and set it up exactly the same. Yeah.
I was
Anyway,
just
sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, there's a tab here that says security, and I clicked it, and there's all these options with tick, 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 and share screen was at the top, and I was like, oh, well, that seems to be fine. Then eventually part of my brain like talked to the other part of the brain and say like, that's not ticked, idiot. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll try ticking it. Right. So
I've just checked, fired up the share screen.
yeah, it should be okay now. So
yeah, so I've set up the meetings so anyone can share, and it's always a good idea to make at least one other person a co-host, because sometimes it'll. I think what happened recently, I exited. When I exited, I said make Paul a co-host, and then Paul's like, "Well, I don't know what that is." So end that, and it killed the meeting. Easy to do.
Yeah, I was just closing down my phone because I had my laptop, and I just went for the red button, but the rest of my brain was also processing the text. Slightly slower than my finger was reaching for the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What can you see one window?
Yep. And
we're seeing the Horizon Digital LinkedIn page.
Right. Okay, so this is the company that they work for, and the guy when he messaged me from LinkedIn, he was away on holidays, and I think he's just only recently come back. But he said, "Oh, while I was away, they like put this out about actually asking people to or making available these space for people to come to." And
I'm just trying to see where they're. Wow, they're pretty central. Murray Street. Murray. It's like looks like it's in Murray Street Mall.
If you think of Miss Maud's.
Oh, it's up that end. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's on the eastern end of Murray Street Mall. Yeah. Okay.
Big parking station there somewhere here.
Yeah.
There are a few parking lots there that'll that are free after 6 in the evenings and 3 hours free on weekends.
Okay.
This looks pretty cool.
I mean that's excellent. That's all we need.
Interested.
Yeah, the free parking is important. I tried to hold some earlier Delphi meetings, and the parking costs turn people off quite a lot. So definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just thinking the Symposium's coming up, and I don't know if we can get it for a day, but that'd be a.
Well, if it's for a weekend day, maybe, and that would be better than a weekday.
Yeah, it's gonna be a Friday. Yeah. But
Friday. Well, okay.
We can ask. We'll see, I guess.
That's true.
Certainly, I should actually send some of this. Sorry, I was just thinking about. Speaking of the Symposium, if I unshare screen.
Oh yeah, we've got a date for that now, haven't we?
Oh, Scott's here.
Hey, Scott.
Awesome.
Sorry about being late.
Hello. Long time no see.
The 17th of May, I think it's a Friday. I mean, it is a Friday, so I think it's the 17th, is a Symposium. I'll get the link and put it in chat soon. It was in the email also, I hope. I was just screwing around.
I can just read the ADUG bit at the top, but I can't see what's in the inner circle. Oh, it's the ADUG logo thing.
Well, it was ADUG logo and Google Gemini playing around. I put them on the oh no, I put it in the committee part of the forum. This was the primary thing, was a mug I've made for the symposium, but with Niklaus Wirth next to a fancy computer. I think one of his books anyway, called Algorithms plus Data Structures equals Programs, and then the ADUG thing.
Yeah, obviously you didn't do that on Gemini.
That was Vistaprint. Quite a good website there.
So what did that so you did a custom mug that you designed, and then they shipped. So you just did one mug?
So I did this last year. It was pretty simple. It had our had some made up Pascal about like people plus teamwork or something or other, whatever it was, and the ADUG logo. That was last year, and we had 20 of those for the symposium, and they ended up popular enough to get rid of everything we, Jesus Christ, everything we ordered, and so we've got 20 again this year of this cup. But like last year, I ordered one here to me beforehand, so I could see that it was like actually looked reasonable. This year, the 20 are already sent in. Sue's got it in Melbourne, but I've ordered 4 here in case anyone's interested. Anyway, just showing a thing. That's all.
Just by the way, Paul, is the dressed up quokka your come out of your a stable of artwork?
that was entirely Gemini. Well, Google Bard it was. I think it changed its name as like the next day or something. It went. Yeah, I tried doing it. I've tried doing it a few times for different outcomes, and so like people are saying, like the AI is destroying like art and creativity. I think there's still some element in there, because you got to go through like, nope, that's no good. No, that's stupid. Like keep trying.
Well, it's also turning you into an artist. So as far as destroying creativity, it's like now you are producing art. The fact that it was an AI involved, who cares? I mean, it's like you just. One day this artwork turned up with a cute little quokka, and I went, "Oh, that's great! I'll use that on my desktop." I didn't care how it was created, whether whether it's AI or not. So it's basically turned you into an artist. So they kind of debunks that theory about
brand new career, mate. All set to go.
That would be a miracle. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys follow Shadversity. He's an Australian YouTube creator, and he's written comic books and all sorts of bits and pieces. And he's a big proponent of AI art. He says, well, it's just the newest paintbrush in the artist's repertoire. And just like any other paintbrush, if you don't know how to use it properly, you'll get poor results. And if you know how to use it well, then you'll get excellent results. People often ask him, sort of like, why can't I get the same sort of results that you get from your AI art? And so he goes through this process where he goes through an iterative process of correcting and recorrecting and refeeding in the art back into the processor until he gets exactly what he wants. But it's not the shove this in, get a masterpiece out sort of thing, like people think it is.
Last year at the XRWA, it was actually my ex-boss was giving the demo, and he was showing how, because that's use a lot of art obviously for XR, VR, AR, all the rest of it. So they use AIs to basically kickstart art, and it was incredible. It could say, I'll use this art style, and everything would be that art style, a certain painting style of some sort of art, but he asked the audience for some keywords. Okay, it's an accident, all right, at the beach. So almost every single picture was a bunch of people standing around a car stuck in the beach.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter what we could do, like what we did, an accident meant a car accident. Only it was at the beach. And you'd have people standing inside the windows and things like that. You know, you had some odd things like that, but that's what it built. But on the other, so yeah, you really need to know how to talk to the thing, obviously.
With some of these engines, you can feed it some existing art. So what you could do is you could spend a day putting together some artistic character of your own creation, you know, drawing to the best of your ability. You feed it into the AI system. It produces, you know, maybe you ask for comic art, or maybe you ask for realistic art, or whatever it is. It'll produce a rendition of what you've tried to do. And then what you can do after that is you can feed in stick figures of an action pose or what have you, and have these characters that you've created modeled into those poses. Think about how fast you'd be able to put together some comic strip if you could do stuff like that. You know, completely
Still, though,
generated
like
by
you say,
yourself,
you need-
but
you still need
the
to know how
laborious
to
bit is gone.
Yeah, still, you still need to know how to speak to it. And I think
Absolutely,
it's like you say, that's the trick.
Yep. Yeah, you've got to know your art brush, but yes, it will save you hours and hours. And what Shad said is, you know, I've got an artist who does this stuff and I pay him, but what happens is when I run out of money, I can't pay him anymore. But if he uses this, he could either lower his price and I can give him more work, or I can use his work, expand what I get to cover my magazine, sell more copies, and have more money to pay him for more art next time. So it's, you know, and his argument is, if I didn't do this, I don't get money to pay him the next time. So this AI art is actually making him money, and it's making me money because it's taking away the barrier from the actual making of money, which is I need to get this completed and I've run out of money to do it.
Well, it's a game changer. I think every advertising studio in the world would be shitting their pants right now.
Well, that's what the screenwriters were striking about. The Screenwriters Guild were striking about it because they were worried that their scripts might be taken over and done by AI.
Well, I'll tell you what. If anything like the Han Solo movie, and that could very well have been done by AI because it was just another train robbery, and it's just done like before, then I don't want AI.
Yeah, well, my point is that AI can't replace real creativity. It can only do so much of a job. So if they think they're threatened by AI, maybe they need to up their game, because any real screenwriter is not going to be worried about what AI can produce right now.
Intimidated by that. That's true. It's true. I think that AI really is a replacement for going to the library. Remember when you were back at university, you'd go to the library and you'd look for a book and you'd spend half an hour looking for it, only to go to the shelf and find it was already gone. You know, that's where AI is good, because you can say, give me all this information from everywhere and it's in front of you. And then you have to use your brain to try and figure out what you're going to do, how you're going to use it. So I think it's a great tool, but it's not the answer to everything.
I've been using it just to write mainly Delphi functions, standalone functions, and it's been terrific. There's been stuff that I could have written, but it would have taken me a few hours, and they've generally generated something that's mostly correct, but it's enough for me to just take that and then just run with it and clean it up a bit. You know, sometimes the coding standard is a bit wacky, or it'll quite often use some old technique, and then I'm mainly using ChatGPT. And then I'll just type back, you know, it'll generate a chunk of code, and I'll type back and say, hey, I think there's a more efficient way to do that in, you know, like Delphi 11.3, and it'll go, oh, you're right, here it is again, bam, 5 seconds later, here it is rewritten.
Does it use a good coding style, or is it very much, you know, 1,000 lines will get you there?
No, it's pretty good. I mean, like I said, I'm mainly using for standalone functions. I need to do some text manipulation, parsing, where you've got a kind of black box, known inputs and outputs, and it does a really good job of that. Sometimes I've got to say to it things like, look, I want you to indent more, but at the end of the day, I mainly use it to do a first cut, and then I'll run it through, test it. I'll go back to it, give it some feedback, and it'll go, okay, here's another cut, and then I just take it over from that point and take ownership of it.
Yeah, my biggest concern is that that's what you would use a junior programmer for. And if you give it all to AIs, where's the next generation of programmers coming from?
Right.
Yeah, I'd have to say as
Good
a
point.
senior programmer, not my problem. That seems to be a young man's problem.
Yeah, well,
No,
I've got a son
basically
that
no
I'm
one's
training
going to
up.
worry about it, are they? Because it's I mean, look, we do in both the Oracle and Delphi world that I'm involved in. We do very little. We don't have junior programmers in the Oracle world at all. Right? There are no junior jobs, and part of it's like Delphi. It's been around for 30 years. There's a lot of people that know it, and you rarely see a job advertised as introductory junior. We'll train you on the job sort of thing.
But what that means is that we're 15 years away from no one being able to do it.
Well, I think we're just about right there now with Delphi. Oracle is, even though Oracle I think came out earlier than Delphi, it still has that problem. It's running out of people right now.
Although there are new languages appearing, so people will be, I mean, there's always somebody programming in C, right? If you go to India, they're probably, some of them are still teaching with Turbo C, because these 30-year outdated DOS programs are, cheap, and they can actually, give that to the students. But
the problem is that it's not free. The problem with Delphi is it's not free.
Yeah.
Or
I mean,
if they'd had community edition earlier, it probably would never have dropped in popularity.
Yep.
It's just they weren't thinking about the next generation.
They should have also, Oracle made the same mistake as Delphi. They should have given it away free to any university.
Absolutely.
Use for teaching and to build their internal systems.
Because quite frankly, go ahead.
With Oracle, where they did give it away very cheaply, but still not free. But there was a time when universities were teaching a lot of Oracle courses, and they just don't do that anymore.
Yeah. And look, would you think that a better language to learn programming in would be, I don't know, Python or C or Delphi? I think Delphi. If you wanted to teach really good programming practices, Delphi, hands down, is the best language.
Yeah, and reasons for that. I mean, you look at C++, it is very abnormal in terms of modern languages, the way it works. I'm working with C++ mostly now, and it requires a completely different kind of things like C# and Java and so on. But the other thing is, those ones are not as type strict as Delphi, so they don't quite learn the same. They don't get the types, like they don't get the types. They
don't understand the nuances, the differences.
Well, the other thing that
you get a lot of lazy and then also you have the whole memory management thing to actually be forced into learning that. There's also, because it's not just memory management, it's simply tidying up after yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was working at Telstra Health, there was this memory leak, and the program was part Delphi and part C#, and immediately Delphi got the blame. Eventually, I figured out, no. Someone is allocating file pointers in C# and not tidying them up afterwards. The leak wasn't C#, but they weren't. When I suggested that to begin with, it looks like it's in C#. Delphi seems to be fine. No. That's C# tidies it up. That couldn't even conceive of that.
Yeah, that's low information.
So was the connection with files was outside of the purview of the garbage collector or something, or how did that work?
No. It's just they had, I can't remember what it was, but I think what it was maybe because they were opening files and not closing them, So probably it was
file
to do with
handles
OS
that were the problem.
calls. What's that?
Probably file handles that were the problem. That open the file and then don't close the file handle.
Yeah, but you'd think
So it
that
keeps the memory
when
around.
you release any access to the object upon freeing itself goes and tidies them up. But in this case, it didn't. So I'm wondering if they were talking to the OS but I don't know. I can't remember. It's a whole bunch of years ago now. But it was a sort of, I suppose, but okay. That's sort of just a sort of resignation that, okay, fine, they should have.
Yeah. And the thing is, with Delphi, you can actually prove that it's not leaking. There's plenty of stuff that we can throw into Delphi that proves, and you can show them the code, created, freed, you can show them the memory management system, no leaks, you can give them all of that. We've actually got diagnostics woven into the fabric of Delphi, whereas with C#, all you've got is the assumption it's going to do the thing it's supposed to do.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, you can't prove anything with C#, which is why they suggested that it wasn't. You can't prove that whether or not it is.
But and every now and then at work, someone mentions Delphi. Just yesterday, yes, someone said, "Oh, there's this guy I was talking to uses this language called Delphi, and apparently it's really fast at compiling." So yeah, Delphi is, and I'm sitting right opposite the guy. He's like, yeah, Delphi is fast at compiling. Yeah, I mean, how long do you reckon it would take to do our code base? And our project is massive. And I'm sitting there going, maybe 5 minutes, maybe, because you've got all those other bits, maybe 3, because a lot of it would just be BPLs and then it would be less. So maybe 3 minutes. And like it takes half an hour for us. And that's me being, and I thought afterwards, a million lines. How long does it take to do a million lines, for example? Is it a minute, 20 seconds, depending on the computer?
I mean, they made a video of that at one stage.
It's just, what would be neat also is, can you choose what C++ compiler you want the Delphi compiler to use?
Oh, sorry, you mean the C++ builder? Or
Yes, so RAD Studio, for example. Which C++ compiler it will use?
It's a little bit out of my wheelhouse, but I believe that there is a couple of options.
I mean, a Clang compiler or there's
the original one that they haven't updated really for a long time. That was pre C++ 11, closer to C++ 03 or something. Well, I think it was nominally kind of 11, but then there's only one other compiler technology, I think at one stage they had one for 32-bit and a different, like, whatever version for 64-bit.
But it's all Clang?
It all depends on the target, doesn't it? I think that's the key thing. It depends on the target.
But it was Clang 5 for a long time up till recently, and now they've brought it up to Clang 15. So, but they haven't quite tied it into all the VCL stuff and everything at the moment.
Because what I saw was, I saw it just a few weeks ago, the Delphi compiler is behind, I can't remember if it was, I think it was optimization it was relatively poor. It wasn't a porous, but it was relatively poor. And as long as as a compiler is exposed to all the C++ libraries used within the RAD Studio, then it doesn't matter what compiler you use, as long as the compiler is up to whatever level of C++ that is, whatever version of C++ that is, so it can cope with the standards. And then you could get some really well optimized, like better optimized, because there's a couple of things I'm thinking should be done in C++, and it'd be nice to also expose them to Delphi. So I might code them in C++ and then have Delphi shells around them.
Mm.
Because then you write it once, you know it'll go for all these platforms, and then at the same time, it's still available to us.
Yeah.
Interesting to me, at least. Excuse me. I have had just normal Delphi Pro forever. You know, Delphi 5. I think then it was XE2, and then from like 10.0, I've been, you know, getting all the updates.
Mm-hmm.
And just recently, or no, not recently, a year ago, they had some offer thing, you know, where you got extended maintenance, all the rest of it, and
like a 3-year bundle or something like that.
Yeah,
3
and
years for one.
Yeah, I went for that.
Our family business is, you know, it's been 30 years. It's getting to like where we'll get out of it soon. And so I upgraded from, wrote to Malcolm, code partners, and said, what would it cost me to go from Pro to, you know, a Delphi and Rad Studio, I guess.
Enterprise,
Yeah.
No. Still Pro, but Delphi and C++. And I think in the end it cost about maybe, I could be $3,000 or something to do 3 prepaid years of Pro. And
wow, that's not bad.
$3,000 for 3 years.
Pretty good.
I mean, it was already costing $750 for the updates in Pro, I think. And like I kind of had the thought that we can get it in now while we can claim business expenses, you know, and before the business is over, and that was a year ago. We're still going, but it's getting there.
You got any thoughts on where you're going to go from here, Paul? You going to move into some other kind of line of work, or?
I mean, for the first time in my life this year, I sort of started with COVID a little bit. We got exposed to all these different user meetings, you know, all around the globe for C++ and Python a little bit, and different, you know, and Delphi meetings. So this is the first time in my life I've sort of been actively networking without the idea of, you know, feeling like throwing up. So I don't know. I'd like to do something in programming, but I don't know if I'd like to have a boss. So that could be a problem. But what I found by surprise is that on my system I had 10.3.3, 10.4.2, 11.3, and now 12.
All on the one PC?
Yeah.
At the same time?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't think that worked anyway. I know you could do early versions of Delphi. I've seen like Delphi 2 through about 7, I think, on the same install, same PC.
Yeah, well,
but
I've
thought
been
it was
doing that
broken
for
in
years.
more recent
Multiple versions of Delphi on my main machine.
Yeah.
And I've got a method of having them coexist, and I even presented how I did it in one of our ADUG meetings.
Yeah, you did some monkeying around with the search path, didn't you? In library
that's
search
right.
path? Yeah, I remember that.
I just find it easier to do what Scott does. I just VM it every time.
That's right. Another VM.
all of mine are just installed.
I must have at least
me too, Paul.
20.
Although, if you try sorry, Scott, I cut you off.
Right.
Oh,
go ahead.
When I've had the opportunity to try a beta version occasionally, so like the people with really good maintenance get the ability, and I think invited to beta for every possible upgrade. But if you're just the average mug, you only get like from 10 to 11, and then from 11 to 12. Not like from 12 to 12.1, as far as I know. But all 4 versions I started to say, when I've tried a beta, so like you can only use this like something beta, you can't, it if you had 11.1, for example, and there was an 11 point something beta, it interferes. You can't use the one that you've paid for. You can use the other one, and then they bring out the release product. The beta ends. You can't use it anymore.
Yeah.
And every single time it's screwed up.
Yeah.
The installation, the booting up of the one that I like, and then you have to
Perfect
install
argument.
files.
Yeah.
I
Perfect
solved that by
argument
just
for
having it
it.
on a different machine, the beta.
Yeah,
But-
perfect argument
So,
for it.
guys, something I've mentioned it I think quite a few times over the years. The problem with having a large number of virtual machines is the Windows licenses you're going to buy for each individual one. So, it's cost prohibitive.
Don't you tell him you've moved it?
Oh yeah. So the way I'd recommend is this company changed their name a few times. I think that's URCDKey.
What I do, Scott.
Yeah, URCDKey.com. They sell Windows licenses for about $10 to $20.
Oh,
And
really?
I've been using them for, I don't know, maybe 10 years. Never had a problem with them. They all seem to be legitimate. It's not like they're pirate keys. I suspect that they're sucking keys off PCs that are being decommissioned and reusing the keys or something like that. Anyway, the keys work. I've used them for 10 years. No problems at all. $10 to $20.
Sorry, Peter was going to say something, but
Oh no, I thought you were talking about Delphi keys. Sorry, I didn't realize you were talking about Windows.
No. Windows.
What was that name of that outfit, Scott?
URCDKey.com. And they seem to change. I think they have a couple of different websites that are all actually the same thing. There's another one called VIP URCDKey, which seems to do the same thing. But yeah, URCDKey.com. Go there.
Scott told me about them a couple of years ago, and I've bought several through them, and I've never had any problems.
Yeah.
I've even bought a bunch of spare
can't-
Windows 10 keys because I don't like Windows 11. So I bought a
Should
bunch
say.
of Windows 10 ones just so
Oh,
years down
you
the
can-
track I can still use
You can
them.
actually revert Windows 11 back to Windows 10. The license will go backwards.
Oh, okay.
All you have to do is get the.
So when you install Windows 10, you just put in a Windows 11 key.
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
You just put in your
Nice to
key
know.
for that system, and it'll work just fine.
Right. Yeah, for the cost, they're pretty much just disposable. If I blow away a key, I don't worry about it. Just if I create a scratch VM and then I get rid of it, I just wipe out the key. Sometimes I'll try and reuse it, but
I bought Project and Visio through the same URCD group. The one thing about them is that it's a one-off key. Once you install it, it's on that system. If it ever goes missing, or you have to reinstall your machine, or you get a new machine, you have to rebuy the key.
Yeah. So the trick with a virtual machine with VmWare, if you move your VmWare or copy it to a different directory, when you start up Windows on that VM, you'll get a message saying, this appears to be different. Have you moved or copied it?
Yep.
You need to click moved. If you say copy, it'll go, well, that must be like a brand new, a different PC. So it resets all of the internal chip virtual IDs, and then all of your licenses get blown up. Yep. So yeah, just be careful when you're, even if you take, I've got like a base version of Windows, and I might have like 5 different versions of it.
Yep.
But whenever I've fired them up, I've always said I've moved it. It's not, so I've got 5. They're actually 5 separate ones, but they can all run, as long as you don't run them at the same time, you're probably not blowing up.
I think morally that's quite legit too, because you're only working on one version at a time.
Just one at a time. Yeah.
And I can't.
And if I do want to, I
don't
just
allow that.
Yeah. If I do want to actually run it at the same time, I just use another key. Yeah. You will find that as soon as you buy one thing, you'll start to get a lot of emails coming through, but that's great because they've got good discounts in there. So your first key, you might have to pay $20 to $30, but after that, you'll have
offers
you'll have discounts emailing through to you all the time.
So one question about that, both to Scott and Lex. What do you do for updates? Does it automatically do updates and believe it's got the right key and everything?
Yeah.
It's just...
Yep.
So it's a fully legit Windows key. I haven't found anything that indicates that it's anything but legitimate. It's just cheap and legitimate Windows. So once I've got a virtual machine, I've installed Windows, I've bought the key off URCD, Windows key, applied it, and from there I can just do Windows updates just like a normal PC.
Yeah, sounds good.
No problem. I haven't had a problem in 10 years of doing this. So,
So I was gonna say before, the thing that surprised me about the upgrade to Delphi and C++ is that it affected all 4 versions that I had. Like I just expected that the whatever I had, 11 point something or 12, would be the one that had Delphi and C++, and the others would stay the same. But it must be the license. So all 4 versions of Rad Studio now, well, they're all Rad Studio now, which are like, oh,
so they
okay.
were Pro and now they're they were Delphi Pro and now they're Rad Studio Pro.
Yeah,
That's strange.
I mean, I guess all the code is in there, I suppose.
Does anyone know if Quality Central's come back yet?
Read only, I think.
Yeah, that's the last I heard as well.
I don't think it was supposed to take this long, though.
Yeah, I think Marco's post on it said a week. Well, we're now into the 1 month anniversary of that week.
Are we talking about the website, quality.embarkero.com?
Yeah.
Or the old, there used to be like a little, like an app that was built into Delphi IDE.
No, this is the quality.embarkero.com.
Hey guys, seeing as I've got you here, I have a Delphi question. Because I haven't touched Delphi in like 2 years, or is it 4 years? Since last time I presented was the last time I touched it.
Wow.
From a computer.
Wow.
Yeah. I've built these libraries, installed them. How do I make them available to everywhere else? Because they've got the details. Do I still need to actually make a general, like put in a setting for the Delphi to look in the BPL directory, as in the DCU directory for that library? Or I seem to remember it was a bit messy like that. You know what I'm saying? Like they're saying, I don't know what this unit is, sorry, but I've compiled it. It's installed. If it was a visual control, you'd have no problems, but you can't compile because you need to have that in a sort of general search path or something like that.
So you built.
Yep.
And it's not visual, so you don't need to install. Is that what you're saying?
Yep. No. I have installed, and so the ID is aware of the library. It doesn't matter whether it's visual or not, anyway. Sorry?
You're not sharing source, it's just pre-compiled?
Yeah.
Because I've done a bit of that lately, and it's really, really finicky. All of the libraries have to match exactly. Otherwise, they don't work. And a lot of the times, the way they get around that is that you get directory after directory of every version under the sun. And depending on what version you've got installed in your system, they redirect into one of those directories that has the DPKs in it.
Well, no, I don't want that. What I normally have is I just have my Batsoft library. I just compile that. It's just there. And then whatever updates I do, I make sure they don't break whatever else I've got. But so that's why I'm so very nitpicky about method names, class names, property names. I make sure that I'm very nitpicky about what things look like, because I know that I don't want to change or delete anything. And so that's very, very, very rarely a problem for me. Besides, it's all available anyway if people want to go mess with them. But so it's more just for all these other projects, I need to put them into, I need to add that to a common search path that applies to. It needs to be in environment variables, maybe, yeah?
Yeah, you just,
it's in the path. I need to add it to the path, right?
Yeah, correct. You go into tools, options,
Yes,
and
I'm
then-
seeing it here.
then language, Delphi, library, and then the two places you want to put it into is the library path and the browsing path. Library so that it can compile, and browsing so that you
Yes.
can navigate to it.
Thank you. I recognize this. Told you been a while. Wow. Thank you.
Sorry, it just took me a little while to cotton on to what you were saying.
Yes. Yes.
Is it
So the
Use it or
library
lose it.
path-
That's the old story, mate.
So I've added it to the library path. And which other one did you say? It's just a library, isn't it?
Browsing. Browsing allows you to go visit the library while you're coding.
Right. Do I want that?
It's not necessary if your library is solid.
Yeah. I'll put it there. Thank you. That's what I'd forgotten about. Jeepers. Goes to show how long ago it's been, huh?
Is it Batsoft, the library that you're trying to connect into?
Yeah.
Because you could have gone to, you may have been able to just go to get it and install it that way.
Yeah, get your library off, get it.
Well, maybe.
Although it might not be up to date for your requirements.
I don't know. It might actually be more up to date than what I'm using here.
Hey guys, just while we've got Peter Thinnell in mind there, designing a real-time strategy game. What's that about, Peter?
Oh, right. I was
Are
just
you going to
thinking.
talk about that, or what's the plan?
Yeah, can do that. It's an idea I had before for a while, and it would be a series of presentations, so it's not something I can just knock out. So many of these other things, I just knock them out. I've just knocked them out like taking like 1 or 2 evenings because they're very small presentations. This would be the thing with the game is that you have a lot of visuals, so it's easier to see the consequences of what you've done. And so, but something like an RTS, I figured you'd have a stack load of things there. You would, because do you all know what an RTS is? Probably not. You're not a
strategy game. Like, can you give us some examples?
Real-time strategy. So that means that things are moving on the screen, and you send your troops off to a certain part of the map, and you maybe, and very often what you'll do is, depending on them, but most of them you'll also build up a base as well and things like that.
Yeah.
So then
this is like Warcraft, Command and Conquer.
Very much. Yeah, Command and Conquer, that's right. Warcraft, Command and Conquer, StarCraft.
As opposed to the turn-based strategy games, which are things like Battle Island and the like. If you're really old like me.
I don't know Battle Island, but the answer is correct. So the idea being that, because there you will have things such as, well, obviously you'll have your collection of units. The units are, soldiers or tanks or whatever they are, aeroplanes. But then how they move, well, depends. If tank will move differently to a boat, will move differently to an aeroplane. So then you have ways of changing behaviors in things. Of course, something like a barracks will not churn out aeroplanes or boats. It'll churn out troopers. So you'll have different abstract factories like that. But what ones are available? How you can add that on? How you can add features without having to alter features. So you build up a good architecture. And so what that means is that it gives examples of, I mentioned there you have your container, you have your facade, you have your abstract factories right there. You will have, for example, troops can be upgraded. So then you'll have decorators on them as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, so there would be a lot of patterns that you could show rather than them being just abstract concepts in a focused demo. If you had a series like this, you could start seeing how you could increase the game, like you said, build a game engine for it. We probably wouldn't build the game itself, more like the game engine.
Yeah, and then you would have a scripting engine that would tie together all of those bits, and then you could actually create levels or what have you with a scripting engine based on well, yeah, using the scripting engine to put things onto the map and cause things to happen at certain times.
Yeah,
and that means unlimited, once you got the engine done, unlimited levels. It's just 15, 20 minutes working on the script.
You would another thing is you'd have it's a scripting engine. You mean like internal commands and that sort of thing as well.
Yeah,
that you could trigger at certain times, precisely. So then how to actually access them. So for example, checking someone's coming within this zone. Is it this type of thing? In that case, I'll attack that type of thing. And you could do that. That's right. And so that way you'd be able to see what's happening in a more visual way. We'd probably just use just images, moving them around, just like kind of like sprites, and that'll do the job. I don't care too much about making it into a proper commercial game engine. It's more using it as although probably at the end of the series, it probably wouldn't take much jigging to use it as such, if it's done right. So what do you guys think about that?
I think it's a fantastic thing.
Absolutely. And
I've actually been thinking about because if you notice I don't know if you guys are into gaming at all, but there is a real problem coming up in gaming where you've got so many IP lockdown rights and so forth embedded into the games that a lot of gamers are concerned that someone will switch the lights off and they can't play their game anymore. And so the whole idea about I want to own my game is coming up, and I thought, well, can I write some of these retro type games, things that aren't hugely complicated, and actually put a license, sell them out there on a license, which is very much along the lines of the licenses we had when the I don't know, Commodore 64 or that era, where you actually owned your game. You couldn't duplicate and sell as a vendor, but you could actually transfer your game to a friend and they could sell it on again. You would actually own your game. It's not one of these I switch the lights off and you lose your game type situations.
Yeah, cool. No,
and so I was thinking, well, why don't I just do a bunch of these very simple, as a test, whatever, just put together a bunch of these very simple type games that I used to enjoy, things like Archon and stuff like that. And just
that was a good game.
put them onto the market, sort of like the license for this is you do the right thing by me, you pay me for the game, you can sell it on to your mates, just don't pirate, I'll trust you.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing. And I figure the worst thing that you can do, and look, you can do the whole spiel about it, put on, YouTube, whatever. This is how I'm doing it. The more honest you guys are with me, the more games you'll get because the funding of these games go into the next game. So if you like my stuff, then don't pirate. And look, even if they do, if they pirate and someone gets hold of the game and then I say I'm selling a new game, maybe that person who pirated the game goes, oh, I like this work, I'll buy the next game.
Yeah.
And it's I
was thinking, if you're going to do things like that, you should probably also make an account on Patreon as well. So although you're selling it, you can also have people just support you generally.
Sure, yeah. But yeah, what I want to do is I want to sort of get away from this model that has sort of crept in over the last 15, 20 years, where you never own anything. I think that is the most disgusting idea that computing has come up with.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. It might actually change things a bit.
I mean, there was always the shareware type model where you could do the first 3 levels of something, get a feel for the game, and then you actually pay for it. If you want to do 20 levels or 30 levels or something.
Yeah.
And I remember when they started that, and people. And then people, it was id. It was one of the heads of id game, and the interviewer said, "Well, you make this shareware, you give these games out for free. Do you actually make any money out of this? Do you see that Lamborghini I parked outside? So the answer was yes.
Yeah.
It worked. But
Yeah.
when they started doing this, like giving away games for free, how is that really going to work? But a lot of these systems work partly because they're advertising, and partly because people really do appreciate respect earns respect.
Yeah. So you respect your
a-
gamer base, they'll respect you back.
Yeah.
I noticed Colin Johansson, who I think he's now back into Guild Wars 2, but he came from that mindset of we're going to, make it our responsibility to give the gamers the very best time they can. We're going to treat them with respect. We're going to really listen to them. And the foundation he laid on that game just made it an absolute gem. And yeah, you're right. When you treat the gamers with respect, they respect you back.
Can I add also, to add to your question about RTS, the guy from Horizon Digital with the location looks like we could be able to use, he sent a message in the message it says 1 p.m. It only got to me at 7 p.m. So I don't know how that worked, but he said, will it be recorded? I'll be at the kids soccer. I put this in chat. I'll be at the kids soccer training, but I love real-time strategy games and almost made a serious career out of it when I was younger. So I think he's on board for it.
Hey guys, that just made me think that, yeah, Peter mentioned Command and Conquer, one of the early RTS games. I was kind of somewhat involved in that back in my USA Silicon Valley days.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so what happened after I left Oracle, I basically went with a Silicon Valley startup company with some senior execs from Oracle. One of the things that we did is got involved with a company called, it was either MPlayer or 10. I think it was MPlayer. I get them confused now because they were competitors, and it's been so long. I think it was MPlayer though that I was involved in, and basically they had the idea of having any sort of games being played over the internet. There was basically nothing playing over the internet back then, more than maybe some chess games. That was about it. There was no multiplayer online games, and they basically had this idea of taking games like Command and Conquer, and either themselves making them multiplayer online, or helping the software companies to make them online through the services that they provide. So they basically provided this like a pop-up program, kind of like what Steam has now, if you're familiar with Steam. So if you're playing the program, you can pop up this window, and then you can chat to other people that are on the MPlayer servers about the game and play with them online.
There is
that was quite an interesting experience. I was brought on board. They basically had to work out how to monetize the thing. So I was involved with writing Oracle code to do that. And it became quite a struggle when it was very quickly became a race to the bottom. All these other companies started doing similar things for free. And then they're going, oh, okay, well now we can't charge $20 a month. We've got to work out how to make money when we're not charging our customers anything. Moving to advertising. So yeah, it was an interesting experience.
There is a game company here where there's a guy who takes retro games and basically gets them to work again.
Like GOG?
Maybe not quite that retro, but more what they call old school, which to us is not necessarily so old.
Are you talking like old computers, Commodore 64, Amigas,
64, the early PC games, things like that. So like I wouldn't be surprised if you do something like King's Quest at some point. But yeah, there might be sort of I can't remember what ones he had done. I can't even remember the name of the company now. So we could look them up. But he's doing quite all right actually. But what he's doing is, so many of them are written in C, and so he gets access to the old programs, actual source code, I believe, and then he uses Unreal Engine because that's C++, and he gets them to run in Unreal Engine so that they can be displayed on modern PCs. They can be played on modern PCs. Something like that. So he uses Unreal Engine as a shell so that the old game can properly interact with a modern PC.
Are you saying old school games for other people are just school games for us?
For us, correct. They're medium school games for us.
Question maybe Scott V might know. When did DLC start being a thing? Because when you were talking about your model, I was thinking like, I mean, people could still own their game and you could still add releases to that, couldn't you? Like if you were to jazz up another level or, you know, add a character or whatever sort of thing. Like they could still give you like an extra $5 or something or other to add a bit more to their game under that model, right? You're muted, I think, Scott.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Oops,
Were you
sorry.
talking to
Yes,
me,
I
or-
was.
No.
Yep.
Scott V, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I was chatting with my family earlier. I didn't want to interrupt. Yeah, just thinking back to with my kids' games and so forth. It'd probably be about 15 years ago. One of the big things about DLC is you needed a reasonable amount of internet bandwidth for it to work. If you're downloading a lot of content, you know, if you had say a 56K modem, well, you know, my DLC will take 1 month to get to me. So I think we had to wait until the internet was sufficiently mature, and I don't think you know, once we got you know, tens of megabits per second, that was basically when they started thinking, well, maybe this is possible. So probably 15 years now.
Yeah.
And it's even more recent when it comes to consoles. You know, it's like the PS3, I think, was the first, or the Wii. The Wii was, I think, one of the first that could DLC. So it's the Wii, the PS3, and the Xbox 360 was that era.
So also, yeah, that's right. Because I remember the pre-DLC was like for StarCraft, and you know, you had to get these add-ons, but you had to go and buy them in the shop. There's no downloading. We had to have broadband, which meant ADSL.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, things were very slow at 9600 baud.
Yeah.
I
work for a
think
company that has those sort of speeds in Africa, and they actually found it was faster to put everything onto a thumb drive, strap it onto a pigeon, have the pigeon fly to the next base. They would take the thumb drive, plug it in, and it was so much faster than using the internet.
Well, one of my cousins lives in Sydney, and he's head of about 40 computer graphics developers. So actually, you know, Scott, one of your youngest daughter was watching when I was there something or other Wolf cartoon. Anyway, that's my cousin is head of that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, some little wolf, some werewolf poodle, I think it is, or something like that.
Okay.
And so that one.
Oh, you mean like it was one of those kids programming things?
Not programming.
No,
Kids,
I mean
TV
TV
shows.
programming.
Yeah,
shows,
yeah, TV show. Yeah.
Yeah, like Vampirella or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. What was this one? Something.
Oh no, it's not Vampirella. It's
Hopefully not.
no, it was something like that.
Something
Yeah.
something or other wolf, but
100% wolf.
Yes, thank you. 100% wolf.
Okay.
And yeah, so he does that, and he's done things like, for example, his department did the graphics for what's that? Oh, the brain names. Aliens movie in
Aliens?
space in the future. You got to see a sort of. It was a ship that was shaped like this that it crashed.
What alien movie?
You know the Aliens movies.
Oh,
Alien
Prometheus.
movie?
Prometheus. So
Oh, the
he
more
did the
recent
graphics
ones.
for Prometheus. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Iron Man's heart. That's all that sort of jazz. And what was it that got us on? Oh, that's right. So he was here towards the end of 2019, was it? So there's a team just here in West Leaderville that was doing some work.
Oh,
And he just
I've got
needed 10 seconds of raw video. And my internet, the fastest I could get it at the time, just wouldn't cut it. It's like 10 megabits or something, and it just was too slow. And so they were seriously thinking about fast couriering a DVD from Sydney to Perth for the couple of days he was here, because 10 megabit per second wasn't enough for 10 seconds of video. It would take them too long.
yeah. Oh, the show is Vampirina.
Right.
Vampirina is yeah, because that's not too far away from Vampirella. I'm sure the kids will love that a lot.
I don't know them, but I can guess Barbarella.
Vampirina. Yeah,
Yeah,
don't
it was
mix them up.
100% Wolfie had done. That's right. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, 100% Wolf, and yeah, yes, it's the kids, you know, the cuddly horrors.
Yeah, the cuddly horrors. Yeah. So okay, so what do you think about the whole RTS thing? Is that something I should start plugging away at? It'll take a while to build though.
Big thumbs up.
Something else I can put you onto is the Castle game engine for a front end. Obviously, the back end, all of the logic stuff is one problem to solve. The other problem is the actual graphic animation, and the Castle game engine uses Delphi, and it is brilliant. And there's plenty of videos online all about it. So obviously the logic is what we want to focus on, because the computer graphics is, you know, neither here nor there really.
Yeah, I was thinking of actually making it so see, if we just use images, then we don't need to worry about any third-party libraries at all.
Yeah.
But let's have a look here.
Yeah.
This looks pretty neat. Looks pretty complex, actually.
It's very highly featured. There's lots of stuff you can do with the Castle game engine. You can do 2D graphics, 3D graphics. You can embed it into Delphi or have it run as its own external engine. It has a graphics and animation builder. So if you want to go any, you know, a little fancy and have things animated, you've actually got that part of the engine allows you to construct all of that. And you can use models that are built up in some 3D Studio type stuff, or what are it's not Wavefront, one of these other Blender. You can put stuff together in Blender, and it'll read Blender files and bits and pieces like that.
Blender is pretty much becoming industry standard now, because guess what? It's free.
Yeah, just like everything else. And this is something I struggle with all the time, is talking to people about Delphi's dead. And it's like, no, it's just not free.
Yeah, that's actually a very good response. That's a very good response, actually.
Yeah, Python is where it is because it's free. You look at the top 3 languages, free, free, free. You look at the next 4 languages, mostly free, mostly free, mostly free. The very first full commercial, no way to get around it type programming language is Delphi, and it sits at number 10.
Right.
Or, you know, there are other ones like SQL and stuff, which are just, you know, nonsense when it comes to programming languages, and that's sitting up above Delphi. And I'm using Tiobi, which, for better or worse, is one of the few that actually comes out with some sort of metric. But Delphi is still a very popular language, about a tenth as popular as Python, which is top of the heap. And so anyone who keeps telling me Delphi's dead, it's sort of like, I've been hearing it for about 20 years. It's not true.
Yeah.
It wasn't true then. It's not any more true today. It's just that everyone who writes Delphi is basically, they've got employment. It's rare that you'll find someone who doesn't have a job in Delphi unless they don't want a job.
Scott, you're saying here about being this about Castle Game Engine, just so you know, cross-platform, desktop, Linux, Windows, Mac OS, FreeBSD. Do you guys know that? I mean, Linux, Windows, Mac OS, or OS X, whatever, sure, but FreeBSD, I didn't know that we could use that. Android, iOS, yes, I knew that. Nintendo Switch, Raspberry Pi, coming soon. Oculus VR, WebGL, Xbox. How?
Where are you reading from?
Oh, this is the Castle Game Engine website.
Oh.
Yeah, and you go to features in the menu, and then
free
you
Pascal,
go down
probably.
to which one?
Probably free Pascal.
Must be something like that. I mean, that's just.
It cross compiles to a lot of.
What's this panther in a cogwheel? You know how Delphi has the Greek helmet on the red circle? There's a blue cogwheel with a panther. Is that free Pascal, is it?
Oh, I don't know about that. But all I know is...
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Okay, cool. That explains it then. Wow, cool.
So yeah, it looks pretty solid.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about the rendering engine yet. They've got a long way to go to catch up with Unity and Unreal.
Yeah, but again, Castle Game Engine is free.
Yes,
and
is Unity and the other two are also free to start with.
Yeah,
start with.
There's been a lot of issues with Unity and how they're plugging in payments per install, things like that.
Yeah, no, that changed. They fired the guy who said that, who was their boss, and they reverted.
They went back. Okay.
Yeah. So the news that they did that has gone out, but the fact that they fired him and reverted, people just seem to have missed that altogether. That wasn't newsworthy.
Yeah.
So that wasn't published as much because, that's good news. We don't want to hear that. We want to hear bad news.
Well, I was using Unity at the time, and it's just sort of like, I'm sorry, that's too much of a risk.
Yeah, well, it hasn't bothered me at all. It's just like, well, I'm not making money off it right now anyway, and so it's a non-issue. When you start making money, and I've gone back to the whole thing, when you start making money, then you start paying, and that's good because it gets you started. And then and then the other one is, I think it's Unreal. If you publish on the Unreal, it's like 30%, I think, with Unity. Once you reach over a certain threshold, with Unreal, something like 10%. But but then they own that platform as well.
Yeah, one thing I could never make work in Unity was the in-app payments. Just couldn't get my head around that one.
Which one? Payments?
In-app payments. Like you want, it's one of those nasty things, but it's basically the model for handheld gaming.
Yeah. Well, you don't have a choice in the matter. Yeah, you kind of need to have that.
So yeah, and I could never get it to work properly. I could sort of get it to work once, and then it would fail the next time.
I'll mention another guide that I'm actually have tried for a long time. to get to talk to us, or WADUG, Jared Dave, I think it's Davis, Tiny Big Games. I just put a link in the chat for a GitHub repo. The guy has a Discord server, and I've seen him over years, and he's been posting heaps of stuff. He's like wrapping up C libraries, like, I don't know, is it SLDC and things like this, and audio, and getting it work, like having it, run in the background asynchronously, which is
cool.
I understand can be, kind of tricky with audio, and it's all in Delphi, all in Pascal, and I just think he'd be, I don't know, at least initially he was kind of shy to talk, like, oh, who'd want to hear it, type things, like everybody.
Yes.
And then I don't know if he has an employer or he's just doing it for his own thing, but anyway, I'll keep plugging away, and I could give a link to the Discord too if anyone's interested. I can figure out how that works. Invite people. Yeah. Copy.
Yeah. Perth on-site only, Black Lab Games, game programmer, Unreal C++. I just got that now today.
What was that, sorry?
No, we're just talking about games, and so Perth. So this is a job ad that's been sent out to me. Perth on-site only, Perth, Black Lab Games, game programmer, Unreal C++. That may be the game one I was talking about.
Oh, okay.
The game company I was talking about. I'll just have a look. Is it?
Okay. I put a link in the chat for this guy's Discord, so if anyone's interested.
The other thing you need to look out too is copyright, because there's always someone else will go and copyright.
No, it's different.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of. It's amazing that I wonder how many human beings have written their own game engine.
Yeah.
Since 1960.
Well, I know one of my colleagues certainly has, so I wouldn't bother if it. The only reason I'm offering it is just as examples for patterns, but otherwise I would not bother. It's too much work. I'd rather just use an existing game engine.
Yeah.
Or it could be
so Warhammer 40K is made by Black Lab Games in Perth.
Yeah.
Really? That's.
You mean an
unexpected
online version?
Yeah.
Am I right in saying this? We are developers of Warhammer
in Perth
4000, so that's wrong. But the games here are Warhammer 40K, Battle Sector, Battlestar Galactica Deadlock, Starhammer Vanguard Prophecy. Those are things they've made.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're saying they're in Perth?
They're in Perth. Well, this job is anyway.
Yeah. And you said it was for C++ or C#?
C++.
Unity, wasn't it?
Unreal.
Unreal. Yeah, Unreal. Sorry.
Well, that's good for one's career for sure. Damn.
Mm.
Yeah, that sounds like the sort of place I should work. Okay, cool, but I need to look after my health first.
Were you going to present anything in particular today, Peter?
I've got things working, but I can't. I mean, like, again, I've simply forgotten what my programs were, what they did. I can show you the odd thing I found here, but I think I've shown them to you before.
Well, can I fire some questions at you? Like, for example,
fire away.
I sent to Scott. Oh, and maybe to you, did I? A list of like talking ideas of things of, you know.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Delphi, right?
Yeah.
No,
Sorry,
it was.
I've just been snowed under. I apologize.
No. It wasn't. I guess I was just spreading my mental pain. It was just like, in order to not try keeping information in, I write it down. And like, I think there's a lot of stuff, even like Delphi's been around, what, 27, 8 years, 29?
I thought we're on 30, aren't we? Or we're coming up to 30.
Yeah, I think you're right. 29 this year, maybe. No, 20.
Yeah, it was
We're either
I
30.
think it's 29. I think it's 1995 because I was still at uni when it came out. Because
1995, yeah. So next year, maybe we'll get some big things happening. Big 30th.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
So it's been for ages, right? But I still think that there are things in Delphi that the general programming population either have more to learn about or aren't utilizing. And like, of course, interfaces and stuff. You know, like if it's in Nick Hodges' book, only some people are doing that. But here's what I actually like. I ordered this. I can't remember why, but like this book's from like 98 or 99 or something. Object-oriented.
what book is it?
Bertrand Meyer, Object-Oriented Software Construction. And I think the thing that triggered that off is there's a group in Tucson of functional programmers that I made friends with, and they meet semi-monthly. And there's a guy there who's a university professor. He's like, I don't know, old, very old. At one stage, he employed Uncle Bob, is it? The clean coding or solid?
Dr. Bob?
Not Dr. Bob. No, it's not in the Pascal world, but you know, more in the university Lisp, et cetera, type world. And he put me onto an old book that was about like object-oriented programming, and it went back to like 19, I don't know, maybe 90 or something or other else. I could find it. And I was looking through and I was like, there's a lot in here that like, you know, like proper solid way that I haven't thought about object-oriented programming, because like you just kind of swept along like it.
Yeah, people just do without really. You know, this works, and you do it, and you just that's just how you work, and people develop their own working styles, and you just keep on going, I guess.
So that's one thing. It's like there's all these things in here. I'm like, this stuff I could absolutely 100%, maybe not even relearn. Like I'd be learning almost for the first time some of this stuff, and I can't bring it to mind right now without going and looking up the book. But in Delphi, right? What are they? Actions?
Yeah, that you can use in threads. Yes.
I don't know if I'm even saying the right word now. Like if you have like to close a form.
Oh yeah, that's like you've got
like
a TActionList, and then inside there you can create actions, and there are some that are pre-configured actions, and then you've got the generic action.
Right.
I use them all the time.
What are they for? Right. So I don't think I really could answer the question, what are actions for? Right.
Yep. So actions are basically placeholders for certain bits of code. Actually, how about if I do this? I'll share my screen. Can I share my screen?
They're really handy I mean, yeah, now I know what you're talking about for the user interfaces, and for example, and they're really good because you can then have a menu item is connected to an action, But a pop-up menu item can be connected to the same action. So, you know, if you think of like Office and you do Control S, or you go down to the menu and you choose S, you bind all those to the same action, and you don't have repeated code. They all just go, oh yeah, I will just call that one, and then you can attach to them icons. So if you have a toolbar item that points to the action, a menu thing that points to the action, a button that points, you know, one of those flash buttons, they all get the same name, hint, image, behavior, all the same. They're great.
And how do they fit into like the hierarchy or the organizational design of your program? Like
by form, Scott will show you in a moment. It's
okay. So you've got an action. Now I just call it a prefix of man because it's like a what we call it, management.
Management. Yeah.
So you go to the action list editor. Now the best thing about this is you can create hierarchical categories to keep them all nicely integrated. So I'm up here using a bunch of different buttons. These buttons here, if I just grab the object inspector, I'll pull it across. So you've got this action here where you just select the action for, you know, from the action list. So you can choose anything in there, any of your actions, and so you just connect up the appropriate action. So I never use button clicks anymore. I put them into actions. One of the big things about actions is that you have on update. I love on update. If you want to have a button enabled or disabled, rather than having to worry about every time something is clicked, you want to then check to, you know, go through all of the items and see whether or not this might impact whether or not something is visible or not. Instead, it reverses the idea of some control responsible for some other control state. It puts that control into your state. So if we look at this code here, just the sender here, I cast it, enabled, becomes not, and then I give it the condition. And what happens is as soon as that condition is not met, then it becomes disabled automatically. I don't have to write code to do it. It's just as soon as this condition is not met, and it just uses idle processor cycles for checking. So as soon as this condition is not met, that becomes disabled.
Hang on. Sorry, that was outside.
So
please,
I never have to
continue.
Okay, so for any button, you're just like, okay, well, under what conditions is this button not going to be enabled? And you just write down those conditions here. You don't have to involve the other controls at all. What you do is you just write down all of your conditions that will cause your action to be enabled or disabled. You put it in here, and you don't have to worry about it again. So that's one of the big reasons why I use actions. It does give you a very nice uniform interface for doing all of your logic code. And of course, when you do this, you can easily, if you need to, pull it out into an MVVM type situation where you've got your actions sitting in a data module rather than on the form.
Yep.
Now, I prefer the convenience of it being on the form, but you could because it's separated like this, it's not hard to create some space between your logic and your UI. The other thing is I can completely deconstruct my user interface here, put other buttons in, connect the buttons up to the actions, and you know, completely new interface. And all I've had to do is a bit of graphic work to make the change. It's really because it's non-visual, it's very, very manageable to change interface elements.
So what that, yeah, like if you show them the on click, for example, or something.
So yeah, okay. So I'm using when you put an action in there, it takes over the on-click. But yes, so the on-click just takes you to the action.
So that happens when it doesn't matter if it's on a menu item and or if it's a button. Either way, you're clicking. So that's when that runs.
And you can connect a dozen things up to the same action if you want to, and they'll all enable disable in unison. So if I've got a pop-up menu like here, if I open up that pop-up menu editor and all of these items in here, I can connect these up to the same actions as they are in the main menu. Well, actually, this one here, this is DevX, so you can actually have the exact same button in both places. But say if this was just a regular menu, you just hook it up to the same action and they work in synchronicity. The properties for it also include handy things like radio groups, and if you wanted to group a bunch of radio buttons or whatever, so that when one goes down, the other one goes up and stuff like that. That's also built into the actions as well. Just go through a few of the properties here. F11. So these are just standard actions. You've also got specialized actions, which I'll get to in a second. But you can put them into a group index, which means that everything that shares a group, you can choose to have or to allow all up or not. But the group index will group together all the things that sort of work in harmony, so that only one of them can be selected at a time. Auto checks, that's a little bit dodgy, but it's supposed to basically synchronize with anything that has a check state, like a checkbox or a button, like a speed button that has a down state, works with that. You can assemble all of your images and so forth. And all of these properties here, they basically map across to whatever control you connect them up to. So if you've got an image for this, like for instance, where are we? Do I have any here that have images? Hold on, maybe if I go to there.
And an image index is all one of those image lists is also good in
okay,
Delta.
Here we go. So image index 3, that means that whatever I connect this up to, if it has an image index property, it gets image index 3 automatically. So that one there is the add zone. I think that might be just under here, add zone. So if I select that and F11, you'll notice that you got image index 3 for your action. You go down here, image index 3 for your image index, and your large image index gets it as well automatically. So if I drop that particular control onto a new button, so let's just add a button. I'm just going to drop a button under the form. And then I'm going to hook this up to, where are we? Hook it up to the action, add zone, and I think it has images, so I'll just hook that up to the regular images. Oh, it's not going to show it.
I think you need a speed button or something like that. I think the regular buttons are a pain.
Okay, I'll try that. Yes. That might have a problem. I think it's being hidden underneath something.
Oh yeah, hang on. Speed button is not a control. It's not a Windows control, so it ends up behind Windows controls.
Do you have navigable
a regular panel on there?
Hold on, I think I know where I can put it.
And the action list is sort of a property of a form.
you can put the action list in a form. It's just a component. You can put that in a form. You can put it in the data module, and then you, as long as the properties in the form can access it, that's all you need.
That's a related question that I'd like to queue as well about data modules, because they were.
Okay, so
this is for afterwards.
And these images.
Why is that not behaving? Anyway, it works, guys. Trust us. Trust us.
Yeah, for some reason. Oh,
Yeah.
do I have regular images in here? Oh, why is that
Oh.
blank? That could explain it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get some images in here. I'm just going to select random images. Why did that not work? Oh, I know why. Drag them in here. That should be enough. And now do we have images? Good. This one here, add zone. Oh, it's 10. Oh, great.
Let's make it 3 or something, 2 or something. I don't know.
One more. Oops, not from disk. Man, sorry, I'm not used to this new library thing that they've done. Okay, so now there should be 10 items in there. It's here. Oh, hold on.
Maybe I'm wrong. Sorry. Is there an image button or something like that?
Image 3. That is correct. I'm going to delete that, and I'm just going to put in a regular button again.
Yeah, sorry. Hi.
There we go. So there's your image, there's your button. It's already hooked up, so all of the logic is there. And as you can see, the title and everything came across as well from the action. So it's really configured it quite quickly once you know what you're doing. But anyway, the thing about the actions is it's really just makes it easy to manage this sort of stuff, especially when you get the hierarchies and so forth. But also, just being able to put a whole bunch of the, I guess, really important logic type ideas into one single place. And like I said, on update is just brilliant for managing when a property should be enabled or disabled.
Scott, I was just thinking, if you, like, one thing I found is that I ended up having lots of click methods and on update methods throughout the data module or form or whatever. Yes. It just occurred to me, I could almost halve those by just putting that, well, at least one could consolidate all the update ones if I put them into one single event. And yeah, sure, you're updating all of them, but Well,
Okay,
what?
so that is actually a fairly good strategy. The only reason I don't do that is that I like, okay, so if I've got 5 buttons that all have the same triggers, I will give them all of the same event. So my action lists, my action items all link to exactly the same event if they all have the same on update triggers. So I only have to write that code once, and I just connect up all of the action list items on update events to that one. So it does reduce it a bit.
I was thinking more, you know, if you weren't using this, you'd have one that would refer to this, you know, this button enable, this button disable, this one enable, and you go through all the. But if you did the same thing with actions, and you explicitly just named all the actions, and you set the action on or off depending on, or
yeah, I know what you're talking about. I'll get to that in just one second. I've got the standard actions open at the moment. So these sorts of things, these do things like file dialogues. I actually like the file dialogues better than the actual controls for doing this sort of stuff. Browser for file, or browser file, sorry, browser folder. If you ever need to select a folder, this is your best solution. If you put that in here, browser folder has this really neat option where you can choose, hold on, it's not in there, it's down here. Use file dialog, and the user interface for that one there looks like your file dialog, except you choose folders instead of files. It's a much nicer user interface than the other ones that you're left with when you use regular file dialog controls. And these things, again, it's based on the TAction, but as you can see, there's a lot more to these ones. And one thing that you've got is an onAccept. All of the actions that bring up dialogues, you've got an onAccept call, which means that you don't have to deal with the let's check to see what they chose. If there's an OK and a cancel button, the accept happens when they've clicked OK. And you can set up a whole bunch of properties here to determine what is, you know, whether they can click OK. Things like, let's see. Oh, sorry, this is browse options. But if you have a file options, you'll have things like file must exist and path must exist. And then if they type in something that's illegal, they can't actually click OK and keep going. They've got to meet the conditions that you set up. And then, of course, if they manage to get through that, then the onAccept call will happen. Otherwise, you can use the onCancel, you know, in case they back out. And it's just a very nice way of, I guess, putting all of that into one little property. But yes, to answer your question, it's one of the things that actions can't do is that they don't trigger if your control is invisible. So if we look at our properties for this, and you've got the visible property, if that is false, this action doesn't trigger, ever. So how do you get it to turn itself visible? Well, you've got to put the check for visible into a different action, because all of the actions will trigger when it's free time. And if you've got something that needs to turn visible or invisible, you need to put that the activity or the action of whether or not it turns visible into something else which isn't going to be invisible. Otherwise, it just never will trigger. So yeah, to answer your question there, Peter, yes, you can put them all into one place, but by the same token, if we go to, where are we? 11. Oh, what a second. Just sit here. Sorry, just trying to find one that's got. Pop up, I think those ones. No. I know I've got one around here somewhere. Really? I'm sure I had one earlier, didn't I? Oh, let's just
That's
go all
okay.
actions. 1 second. Oh, there we go. So we've got a couple here. So if we go into here, F11. Okay, so an on update here. Now the reason why I've done it this way is that if the same sort of trigger happens for half a dozen actions, I don't have to care about what the buttons are or what have you, what type of buttons they are that's connected to. This sender is the action itself. So if I put the sender, cast it as an action, set the enabled, that means I can get a dozen buttons, a dozen actions all connected up to this same code if all of those actions have exactly the same triggers for being enabled or disabled. But what I can do is I can take other on update actions and I can throw them into this same place. But in that case, the sender won't work. I'll have to use the actual names of the actions instead.
Yeah. That ends up being called for the half a dozen different controls that would be affected, rather than having a single method where you list out each of the half dozen controls.
Exactly right.
Actions, rather. Yes, that makes a very good sense.
Oops, sorry. So if I just go back here.
Cunning plan.
That makes it a type of polymorphism, right?
So it's got TAction selected update.
Suppose, but well,
and over here, and I think it's these two. Notice how both of these have the same on update.
Yeah.
That one and that one.
Because you can't edit or delete something unless something is selected.
Exactly right. Exactly
they
right.
follow the same rules, so you might as well just use the same event, rather than listing them out explicitly.
Exactly right. And because they're TActions, I don't have to worry about, well, is this a speed button or a radio button or a menu item? Or no, it's an action. And all of them can get exactly the same behavior because they're all actions.
Yeah. Cool.
So
thanks for that.
and it's that consolidation that I find just very, very useful.
I think the other way can be clearer, but this is certainly more consolidated.
Yeah, true. Yeah, you're right. But, it's not as clear. You can't tell exactly, but just by looking at it, which controls are being switched on and switched off.
But it is more concise for sure. All right, thanks for that.
Yep, no worries.
But yes, Paul, actions are great.
Yeah, thanks for that, because now I can start to picture where they fit into
it's your
hierarchy.
kind of it's your common behavior between lots of controls. So like a open file, for example, there may be different ways of causing that to happen, but it's a common behavior for it, or you've got your own action. It's your common, so you don't have to go to each one of the button and the menu one and the main menu item and the pop-up menu item. They all just have the same action. You just change the action.
Yeah. Is this a bit like, I know this might be stretching the analogy, but when you think of like model view controller type situation or something like that, I mean, like the buttons and the key presses and all that are like the front presenting part of your application.
Yeah.
And those routines that you are calling are somewhere in the middle or something. I'm not sure how it all works out. That's kind of like the tying together of those two halves.
Yep. So if you wanted to do that, you could put the action list onto a data module and put everything in there. And so long as you don't have to worry about co-interaction between the controls, you could have that set of actions supply that ability across a dozen forms, or you could just separate them out so that your logic is separated from your form, and you can just connect up a different user interface if you like, and all you just do is you just use the data module and then start hooking up your actions.
So yeah, Paul, the answer is kind of, sort of, because with the MVVM you're looking at. So Scott, yeah, you usually have a DFM XFM is your view, and then your model is your sort of data somewhere else. So it's not quite the same.
Yes.
But it is a little kind of separating of the.
This is the MV and V, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it's half of the equation. I mean, what you want to try and do is separate out the user interface from the business logic. I mean, all of the regular logic that is just how the form manages itself can be put in the form. But what you want to do is you want to move the business logic away from the form into some other place, and then the data can be even further abstracted out of there. So if these actions are all about the form logic, yeah, sure, keep it on the form. If they go into activities that are more business logic oriented, you could drop those somewhere else and have that abstraction or that separation, so that you can throw away the form, put a new form in there, connect it up to your existing logic and keep going.
Right. So we're really kind of just talking, to one extent possible, just inside the view. We're just looking at the view, but we're still separating a little between.
Yep. And look, it's always good to separate concerns, even if it's just a logical separation.
I also have a follow-up question about data modules. That they have sort of a privileged position in a Delphi application. Is that correct? There's something different about a data module compared to.
It's a form that doesn't have a form. So it's got basically a build space. You can drop non-visual components on there, and it's essentially its only role is to exist as a place to put non-visual controls, so you can still use the IDE way of building your application when you want to when you don't have any form.
So it's kind of just like having a unit.
Well,
yes,
yeah, but a unit doesn't have somewhere to place non-visual components.
Yeah. But other than that,
yes,
like if you were just going to write code, it's kind of the same thing.
No, just use a unit. If you don't want any non-visual components, just make a unit. Don't bother with data modules.
But it's a unit turned into like a visual thing.
Yeah,
I mean, can you, for example, have more than one data module in a?
Yes, just like you can have more than one form.
Okay.
So if you want to, instead of having a data set and a data source on your form, you could put those into the data module, and then the form just uses that data module unit, and then it can see the data set and the data source. It's all about the idea of abstracting layers. This is kind of a big thing about 10, 15 years ago. You want to have your user interfaces just like one level. Then to talk to the database, you have all of that in separate units, right? So the form doesn't do any direct database access. That's done by a separate unit. So you have all these different layers to get from between the database and the screen. But really, it's just about clutter. If you've got a form that's got just a ton of stuff on it, it's just a way of decreasing the clutter. You can take all of your data sets, data sources, move them out so they're in a separate file. You can still see them just like you currently do on the form, but they're just on like a blank gray screen. So yeah, it's either about reducing clutter or about putting that
Separating
abstraction
concerns.
layer. If you have a lot of data access and your form is just getting just too big, it's just a way of separating it out. Move the database code into a data module, pull it out of the form. That makes your form smaller, maybe easier to understand.
Or if you need a common place for, say you've got 4 forms that connect to the same data access points, put them into a data module, and then all 4 of them don't have to worry about whether or not the primary one is closed.
It also
so what will happen very often, I've seen many Delphi projects become an unholy mess, because what happens is you get someone puts down some data controls onto a form to plug in the controls, and then they make another form. Oh, that already exists on that other form, so they connect to that form to have that, and eventually you just get this complete spaghetti between forms. Data modules, and then they can all just refer to the same data modules. You tidy it up, you don't get the spaghetti.
You can do that with quite a lot of code that just does data integration, accessing database. That can require quite a lot of code. So by pulling that out of a form, even if you just got your application is just one form and that's it, just pulling that out just manages you, instead of having a big monster form, it's just splitting it into 2 places to make it a bit more manageable.
Nick doesn't like Red Studio in many, Red approach in many ways, and he talks about extracting a lot of the stuff out of the forms and putting it into this form to write proper tests. I suppose this would help to do that, wouldn't it? It'd help to separate the form from the actual logic.
What I often do is, when I have large projects that have, or when I have proper projects, not just little test projects and demo projects, and I have the data access, what I'll sometimes do is I'll have, because as you probably know, I like interfaces, because I can shield things off. You can have your interface implemented any way you like. So I'll actually have a data module that implements interfaces. Oh, by the way, you can think of a data module as just an invisible form.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, use them a lot. Yeah.
But then what happens is I'll have public methods on. I know this is probably going to sound really strange to the Scots, but I'll have public methods that obviously then are implement that interface. So I can say, give me a list of this, or create these, or like, so that all that functionality that deals with the database is hidden behind an interface. The fact that the object that implements that interface happens to be a data module is only so that I can throw down the data connection object and the queries and the SQL updates. I just hide all those. How that works, the rest of the program should never need to know, in my view. And this is part of the way this is one of the reasons I don't like, so grids are the only exception I have when it comes to seeing query objects, for example, T-query. Everything else, when I have a good, what I consider a well-architected program, doesn't see those at all. I don't like, that's part of my RAD is bad, OOD is good approach when it comes to data aware stuff. So they just talk to the methods. So they just see, it's a different approach that I haven't seen anyone else do, but it does keep the program very clean, I find. It's, like I say, it's counterintuitive to most people, I think, because it really isn't, but it works very nicely.
My point is
because otherwise you have to, if I was to do that sort of hiding, without a data module. I have to go and create those things explicitly and populate them. It's all in the DFM or XFM. It's all there. It's just, yeah, just create the object. It's just loaded. It's just done.
Very smart.
You're muted.
Oh, Paul.
Thank you. Scott V, a long time ago at Artifactory, was talking about using, let's say, FireDAC maybe, and I think you were using multiple threads, and maybe you had to have a set of FireDAC components for each thread. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, with data access components, you can't cross threads. They're not thread safe.
So then, can each of those sets of components go on one data module?
Yes.
Or do they have to be separated out?
The way you could do it is you could have whatever you need on a data module, and then if you've got three threads that all want to use that same data, you create 3 instances of that data module because you can. And then each one of them is responsible for connecting up to the database itself. So you'll end up making 3 connections back to the database, but each one is going to be connected inside its own thread, which means that you can then deal with that database in each of the different threads without crossing thread boundaries and causing unsafe or problems with threading.
So you would actually have 3 data modules, is that correct?
Yeah. You would need to make every thread instance would need to generate its own data module within its own thread. So you start the thread up, the thread would say, create me an instance of this data module and connect it up. Now,
so
go ahead.
You wouldn't create it by hand, but you'd create it in code then.
Yeah, yes, yeah. Well, you could design the data module by hand, but you don't ask it to be automatically created at runtime. You can ask it, just like you can create any other object, you just create an instance of it, store that in your thread and reference that. Just remember to free it at the end, or disconnect your connection to the database and free it before the thread kills itself.
Right.
Hey guys, just on that subject, Paul, can you just jot down that I think some kind of presentations on threads in general would be really good. I don't think we've done much in that over the years, and if even if we have, it can be revisited. I think it's been quite a while. And there's just a lot of different ways to do it.
Actually, again with Scott, I meant to email you this. I don't know if it's any use to you. Have you heard of the idea of property-based testing? I don't know if it came up in like the functional programming type area, but so there's some really good talks. I think that there's one in particular that I'd have to go and find again. Hopefully in YouTube I've put favorite or something. So you know how I wrote in email somewhere, I think on the meetup page for this meeting, like after so I spent like 15 years thinking regex was like mysterious magic that I had no idea about, and then came up to an application where I needed that to apply that and found out, oh, it makes sense. Like I can write these now. It didn't take that much. Like it was an impenetrable wall until it wasn't, sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
Wait a second. I feel a need to inject some haiku poetry here. I think you've heard this one before. I had a problem. I solved it with regex. Now I have 2 problems.
Yep.
And then we had that talk where I found out that you could put comments in them. But
and then some smutty pants built an entire regex engine. Who was that? I'm
Yeah.
looking at you,
Oh,
Scott Van
I-
Linden. That was a magic bit of
Still
code.
running.
That was one hell of a project.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
really
Yeah.
well done on that.
do you
Oh,
guys still have a copy of that? I use it all the time. Whenever I need regex, I pull up my regex
Our
editor
own engine.
and
Yeah.
throw in all of the stuff that I'm trying to find and do all my testing there. I don't know how people do regex without something like that.
Online.
Anytime
They
I
go
do
online.
regex, I just have to document the hell out of it.
Mhm.
You know, like break it all up into separate lines and explain what each one is doing. Because otherwise,
Yeah.
forget
Yeah.
about other people. Screw those other people. If I come back later on, like tomorrow, I'll be going, the hell is this? How does this work?
Yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, looking after the future, Scott. Screw those other people though. I don't care about them.
Write your code as if it's going to be read by a serial killer who knows where you live.
So much poetry about regex here.
Okay, so regex has been one of those things, and testing is exactly the same, right? For me, that it was
Oh,
something
unit
like,
tests? Yeah.
yeah, unit tests and that I knew you're supposed to do
Right.
it. You know, I haven't been working for a company that like made me learn to do this stuff. So in the last, I started doing maybe about December or something, an advent of code, set from 2022 actually, trying to do like Delphi, but number one in as functional a way as I possibly can, and then to also teach myself more about Spring for D, which I'm still getting to. But I also
Spring
managed
4D has changed dramatically in version 2.
in a good way, you mean, or
As in it will break your code way.
not mine because I haven't used it before.
Yeah. I'm just warning people, if you've been using 1.x, moving to 2 is quite the culture shock.
Right. I suppose there are the major version number. So this is a case where a major version number really means a major version difference.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's a code breaker. You'll need to spend, if you're going to swap to version 2, anticipate putting half a day aside to correct all of the differences.
Is it like a change in like design / approach or something, or?
Yeah, and it's not just one; it's dozens. It's even things like the nullable class doesn't use null. It uses nil now.
Right. Okay. Makes sense. Do you guys have any idea? Like I've searched for this a couple of times now, and I would like to identify whether a memory address is a global, like if a variable is a global variable or not. So it's one thing working out that whether things are in the stack, that's fine. But global variables and everything else is in the heap. But I want to work out whether something is specifically a global variable. I want to distinguish that from everything else in the heap. Because if I can do that, then I'll be able to write a little library that does something that you have in C++, which does basically like shared, like sort of like references, basically.
I thought you were going to say
then it'd be very
coroutines.
easy and it'd be a no-brainer. Otherwise, I have to rely on the developers to use a correct. Like I'd have to have a couple of versions, one for global variables and another one not for, and so on, 2 or 3 different variants. So I just need to know:
Please shoot
is
anyone
this,
who uses
whatever it
global
is,
variable.
a global variable?
Yeah.
And then I'll have garbage.
I
I'll
was
make
gonna say
garbage
RITI.
collection in Delphi.
I was going to say you can use RITI to find out where a variable exists, but that only can tell you where the unit is. It can't tell you its visibility level.
What do you mean? The unit?
Yeah, so if you're in a unit and you use RETI, you can actually find a variable and ask it, you know, what is your full name, and the full name will include the unit name, but it doesn't tell you its level of access. It's just that if it's in a unit other than yours, it has to be global.
I don't understand.
Because otherwise you won't be able to find RETI won't be able to find the variable otherwise.
What I mean is you could have a global variable in an implementation section of a unit that is only used some. I know it's not used by everyone. It could just be, but maybe, but still, I need to know whether that variable is a global variable or is.
Well, if it's not in the interface section, it's not really global. It might be, you know, global to the unit, but if it's in the interface section, it's global. If it's in the implementation section, only visible.
Okay, that's not what I'm referring. Well, okay, if it's okay, so if it's in a method or a function, then it's on the stack.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's going to be on the heap. Now, the question then is, so this is for variables then, not for constants and like, but so the question then is it just a var in a unit, or is it in an object or a struct, or as an object or a, you know? So for example, you could have a record, and you have a global, and you have just a freestanding var with a variable of that type of record, and inside there inside that record you have a variable. I want to know, and I might not know anything about this record, and this might be in a hidden away in an implementation section, but I need to know the address of that variable inside that record, inside that implementation section. Is the address of that in a global variable, or is it, say, embedded in an object that's somewhere else in the heap?
Okay, you got me. I don't have a solution for that.
Because if I can work that out, also basically there have to be chunks of memory for things like that. And I need to know, is it in one of those chunks or is it somewhere else in the heap? That's the distinction I need to make. And if I can do that, then it's sorted. I can do the rest.
Yeah, I don't have a solution for you. I'm sorry, Peter.
No, I've searched around and I haven't found anything. So
there's actually, you know, cc.embarcadero.com, which was the old Code Gear website.
Oh, yes.
There is a post on there that I'm trying to find of a garbage collector for Delphi, and it goes back like, I don't know, 2005, I'm guessing, something like that. I'm trying to log in, it's just waiting and waiting. But there's a thing, BOEHM, Bohm garbage collector. I think it was a thing in computer science at some stage.
Okay, yeah, that's a German name, yeah.
Somebody must have written one.
I had a physio called something or other Berm. She was really pretty. But anyway, that's beside the point.
Anyway, I will find it at some stage and email it to you if necessary.
Okay.
So in C++, you have things like shared pointers, and you have unique pointers, and it would be something like that. I mean, the thing is, once we can do that sort of thing, you can even do things like memory packing, and they don't affect anything else. There's a lot of stuff you can do once you have references.
You mean references like in the C++ sense?
I mean references as in like the C# Java sense.
I'm not sure what that is.
So you have memory managed, but think of them as pointers, but they're memory managed, except that actually it's a double the reference pointers actually.
Okay.
So you can do things like when no one is pointing to an object anymore, it gets freed up by the garbage collector. But you can also do things like, the memory that we're using is too fragmented. I'll just compact this memory and I'll just move the objects in memory and it won't affect the program.
That sounds like arena memory in a sense.
Yeah.
Or is that different?
Yeah, the only two things I could think of is these are areas that I haven't explored. But has anyone got an experience dealing with FastMM?
Yes.
Because
Well, I think everyone does now, because that's now included by default.
No, I don't mean including it. I mean
like actually using
Modifying
it.
Yeah, there's features within FastMM itself. Is anyone familiar with what that entails? Because there may be a way of tracking this stuff through FastMM. I mean, it's
So
obviously got to be
FastMM
used.
as a prerequisite.
Again, another great presentation idea if anybody wants to volunteer for that one.
Yep.
That would be really good.
That'd be a good one.
If I can take I think something might be coming up, but that website's very slow. But if I could take things just sideways a little bit, another thing, so C++ and a lot of different languages have coroutines, which are like functions that you can jump into, but not go all the way through. Like it's like, what is it? Not async await, but you can use.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's like cooperative multitasking. You can leap into a function, go part of the way, then go back again, and then when you return to that,
called.
Lack of commitment.
No. So, well, yeah, what it is
This sounds like the men that I banned from
takes too
marrying my
long,
daughters.
and you say, I will back out now, and I'll. It's sort of, what are they called? I know what you mean.
It's a cooperative multitasking basically, and it's used in Kotlin. It's in C#, in Unity, isn't it? They use it for, like, you've got a certain amount of time to redraw the screen, and so you'll do as much work as you can or something.
It's a cooperative multitasking, like early versions of Windows, where programs had to, release the CPU back to like it was only in use one at a time, but they had to release it.
But now we have multiple threads, so you can you can do all that in a background thread. And
so you have them in C# a lot, and you might not have the value now, but rather than waiting, rather than a thread waiting for that value to become available, you just say, you know what, come back to me later. And then so that thread jumps out of that function, does other stuff, and that other stuff might actually produce that result you're waiting for. So it's kind of like you have a message queue, but it can say, you know what, just jump onto the next thing in the message queue and put me at the end. And then it goes through these other things until it sort of goes around, comes back and goes, yep, okay, let's see if we've got the value now. If we do, we'll continue executing this method. Does that make sense?
There's kind of these really fascinating things around the JavaScript, because JavaScript is nominally single-threaded, right? But it has an event loop that can sort of like put things off to the side, and I don't know. It's there's a whole talk around that, but maybe not necessarily a Delphi talk.
No, I think we do. It's
Oh, Barry Kelly, you know, he was involved in the you know, he was a big you know, designer or something in the you know, the Delphi or Borland, I think, back then. And he put this post, and I think there's something on his blog about this Bohm garbage collector. I'll look for that next. But there's two references in the chat. Very slow website. And maybe he answered a Stack Overflow question, I think. I'd really like to be able to...
They call them async methods in C#. And you have await.
Yeah.
So you await a method to complete. Like you await something to complete. And a method that has to actually be given an async keyword. I wonder what Delphi would have for the equivalent.
Yep. I wish I knew more. I wish I knew now about Delphi and programming, and then could transport myself back to like 2002 or 3 or something or other, because between Alan Bauer, Barry Kelly, Craig Stoltz, Danny, the guy that passed away. Like I think there was this like must have been quite amazing in there of like ideas and stuff, and like I'd really like to hear more from those guys. Like, you know, tell us what it was like. There's a Stack Overflow question that mentions that Barry Kelly did something, so it links to his. I didn't check, but I think it links to his blog from way back, and may require.
Yeah.
No. Anyway, sorry to take things.
No. That's actually quite useful. So await in Delphi.
Yes. I've put a lot of things on the forum about coroutines because C++ has been adding them for the last 3 to 20 years. Sorry, go ahead.
Have a look at that last link. Pop it up and then just browse through it. I think it might actually give an example of exactly that. I don't know if it's.
I think that's Primosh's blog, that one.
So if you look at that second method that's listed there, there is an await create task.
I'm waiting for
I don't know if this is. I have never seen this in a parallel async. I don't know if this is something that's actually available in Delphi or if this is just some sort of proposal.
This is the guy who wrote OmniThread library, and this is like when you guys were asking before, like, you know, if I've finished doing this job, what's next? It's like I feel like I need like 10 years just to read everything about programming that I want to know that I don't know. But the reason I mentioned about coroutines is that, like, if you go, what I'd really like to like just hack together in a horrible way is to jump into a function, and obviously you've got a, what do you call it? Stack frame. Like there was already a stack. I don't know how it works. Like, do they just pile on top of each other? But you have a stack, then you go into a function, and there's some variables and stuff that happen in that function, and so then you're adding on to the stack and the heap, of course. But you know, like the stack of stuff that's going on in that function, and then if you're going to suspend that function, right? You kind of want to grab that top part of the heap stack, put it away in memory and preserve it, and then just jump back, even with a go to or whatever, like pop off the, the call stack or whatever it is, so that when you jump back to that function, it grabs the remote, the stored memory. So like, okay, what line number was I on? What value were all the local variables and stuff when I was here? Restore them, keep going, right? Sounds horrible and dangerous and stuff, but I'd love to like just get that working over like a weekend or something or other.
Are you talking from one execution instance to the next? Are you talking with just within one execution?
I'd basically like to create yield for Delphi.
Yeah, so
even if it was only in a tin pot, barely working, string, tin and string and glue type way.
Well, I think you, it's going to sound silly. I think Asleep effectively does that. So in many ways, I think, because when you, so you're talking about a single thread application that's yielding temporarily.
Yeah, it would all take place within a single thread.
So aside from having synchronize in, so you've got your Windows task message queue, and you've got synchronize, for example, where you do it explicitly and you say you want to call something else, and you basically put it onto the message queue, if I remember correctly, and then sort of executes that. And then it comes back later. But what you're talking about is that at any point the thread can be, or the execution can be paused at any point, just randomly, you mean?
I don't think it's at any point. It has to be written into the function to say here is a location where I'm. Yeah, you can't just do it. It's not preemptive, so it doesn't just happen.
Okay, in that case, synchronize might be what you're looking for, because I've used that before.
Well, I have actually played around with console windows and synchronize and had them printing text at the same time. I have like little experiments in that regard, but the thing that, see, I don't know enough about this coroutines, but it was done, like it started in 1960s or something or other, right? There were versions of Pascal, like way back, with coroutines. Smalltalk or something that only sent messages around, I think, did coroutines, and maybe similar and stuff. It's like we could definitely do that now, even in a in a 19.
Pretty sure Delphi synchronize is that, because the whole point of that is that you have it in a single threaded Windows application, and you're inside like I say, the Windows message queue. Say it's a button click or something like that, and you say, oh no, you know what it is? No, it's not the same. I'm in a different thread. I'm running this different thread. I need this thing run on the main thread. That's what the synchronize is. Gee, I've forgotten stuff. I need to start programming in Delphi again. But yeah. No, so it's but still, there you've got your other thread, and it's saying, I'm going to stop here. I'm going to have this executed in the main thread. So I'm going to put this onto the thread queue to have it executed and then come back. But that's not the same thing as having a single threaded application. But then I suppose the thing is, why would it have to be a single thread application with today's hardware? Even small hardwares are multi-threaded now.
Oh, copying image address. Here's a picture of the sort of thing. Your message is too long. What the hell did you give me, Google?
But that link that I sent seems to have awaits. You know that it seems to have async and await. So it might be worth having a look at that.
I'm not sure this is the same as technically async await. Copy image address. Try that. Go away. Oh, there you are. Okay, try that. Should say a coroutine is a generalization of a function. They're coming up. Anybody see that? Oh, sorry, I put in chat.
Oh, right, chat.
Sorry. Did we lose Scott?
Yeah, he had to go, I think family thing.
Oh, yep, you said that.
My mic was off.
Yeah, that's right. So where it leaves the coroutine and then returns, that's where we're waiting for something heavy to happen. The caller might resolve the calculation in the middle there before you do the resume, and then oh, the value is there. I can now complete what I'm doing. Boom, it comes out.
It's not like another thread, right? The second block doesn't continue executing when you leave. It just remembers everything as if you were single stepping through that. And yeah, like C# apparently has it in a maybe a simple way. I'm not sure for Unity.
So the link I've sent you, the guy says how you can emulate that in Delphi. So you can have similar sort of procedure, similar sort of behavior. It's not as elegant as in C# because there's nothing in the Delphi language to allow for it, but you can do something similar. And he actually shows how to go about that.
I've been there before, and it was actually open in a different browser window somewhere in amongst my many tabs. But
so it's that second one, the Delphi Geek one, and so what he says is you can actually make he's actually written then an await, an async and an await method, and they will just take anonymous methods basically, do some code, and then you do your await, and they'll continue on afterwards.
Yeah, I think this might be using another thread though. I could be wrong, but I think that's. Anyway, I didn't mean to take your
No.
your talk about
my talks are completely unprepared, so that's fine.
No, your talk, your question about the global variables off track. I just when you were talking about their
Yeah,
existence.
we didn't. We moved on. Scott suggested something about having a look at fast memory manager, and then we just dropped it there because there's nothing more to. This is actually quite interesting. Oh, wait, there. That's async, and then T08 create.
Well, kind of linked to this is another thing that I want to understand is in JavaScript, because of its nominally single-threaded construction, right? When you want something like like someone pushes a button, it's going to send some command off to another computer server, and you don't know when you're going to get the result back, but then when it does, you want to do something with it. So they had callbacks, right? And then there's a thing called callback hell, which is like a callback that's waiting for a callback, that's waiting for a callback, something like that. Again, I haven't had enough brain space to like really understand all this stuff. But then callbacks got replaced by promises and futures, so you could sort of like create the want for something that's going to come later. We have futures in Delphi, right? Which I think maybe they've done a really good job of kind of hiding a lot of stuff there. But in JavaScript, it's separated into promises and futures, and there's stuff you do with that. And then there was another transformation later on for async await, which did the same thing, but in a like nicer, neater, what do you call it? Sequential looking sort of way. And I don't understand enough of any of it. And it's
the promises and futures I would like to know more about. Now, when it comes to communication, so about 15 years ago, I was writing, it was before the first iPhone came out, and I was writing an app for Windows Mobile. And Windows Mobile was so advanced that once iOS came out and Android came out, they took them at least 5 years to catch up with Windows Mobile. The problem was Microsoft dumped it and made Windows Phone 7, which was worse. It was the most restrictive, most underbaked mobile OS of all. But Windows Mobile had been around for like a decade, and it was actually really quite mature. But anyway, what I didn't feel like doing back in the early noughties or mid noughties was running a web server on a mobile phone so that I could synchronize an app. So I developed my own little protocol, which I'd been wanting to do for about 5 years at the time anyway. And it turned out to be really, really good. I have written it in C#, and that's what I was saying earlier. I think should be written in C++ as well. And I think it could be what HTTP is to the web. I think Morph could be to Internet of Things. It doesn't do anything inherently new, but by having a single protocol that does a whole stack of things, you can do things with that protocol that you can't do with other protocols. One thing it does, for example, one of the few things is it breaks the whole SOA architecture, the whole service-oriented architecture. So the service-oriented architecture, of course, you have clients, call a server, server replies. It's all around the server providing a service, and everything calls that. So service-oriented. This one breaks that. So you can have business objects, and each business object can be considered a server object, but it doesn't matter where it is. It could be on the client side, it could be on the server side, it could be somewhere completely else. And we we have paths to them. They can pass on paths to, so you're really dealing with what you think of are client-side objects. If it's local in memory, you might as well just talk to the object directly. And there are all sorts of things you can do. But what it means is that you can ask for callbacks, but a callback won't be a reply. So with Java, what they do is, so with a web browser, for example, the server can't send messages to the client, to a web browser. It can only reply to the client. The client sends a request, gets a reply from the server. So when a client application needs to know when something happens on the server, it makes a call, and then the server hangs that call. And the client is sitting there waiting. And then the callback happens. The server replies to the client, and then the client goes, "Oh, it's happened now," and then does its thing. And I think that might be what you're referring to, and that may be like a chain back and forth. That's what it sounded like when you're talking about that callback help. Whereas if you have proper callbacks, you can just, so with Morph, you can say, look, I have an object here, call me whenever something happens. And you send that to the server. And the server application just goes, oh, yep, this happened, I'll send a message. Oh, that happened, I'll send a message. Oh, that happened again, I'll send a message. So it just happens every time. It just calls the client whenever. The client may or may not reply. But the point is, you can then get, they're callbacks, but they're not necessarily a call waiting for a reply. That's a single callback. It can just happen repeatedly. Does it make sense?
Looks like a messaging. Here's a question that may be off topic. Messaging like in Windows, right? Messaging and events, same or different? I mean, I know they're different.
No, it's more like just objects talking to each other.
Isn't that messaging? Isn't that small talk?
Maybe. It's more like Corba, I would say.
I never knew that.
Corba, so you can have your distributed objects calling each other's methods and properties and so on. And they just don't happen to necessarily be on the same machine in the same process.
Right.
So, but they're just calls, really. So think of having a service in a web service application, and you call methods on the service. Well, a web service application has only one single object with a bunch of methods. But imagine if you could have multiple objects, and you could call different objects as methods and properties, and it could call yours back in return.
This kind of sounds like AWS Lambdas.
I don't know what they are. I don't know enough about AWS.
As far as I know, which is very little, it's like, you go out on the cloud, and instead of having some big thing, server or something, it's like a function.
Are you talking about microservices?
I can't really answer that question.
Because that's lots of little things that call each other, and they can be very distributed, yes.
Well, I think Lambdas might be smaller than microservices. I'm not sure. The Rust people gave a demonstration of basically putting like a function like we would run in Pascal, basically that much code, but out on the web somewhere.
Anyway, it's getting late. Shall we? Yeah. I'm just gonna have a look at AWS Lambdas. What is that? And we can just have a quick skim and then have a running code without provisioning and managing service. High available. I don't know. It'll take too long to read that. So
I think we've had a good run.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Especially considering it was unplanned. So lots of questions asked and some answered.
that is my skill in knowing nothing. So
need to know enough to ask. All right. Anyway, I'm going to at least duck off. I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm going to.
I think it's good idea.
yeah, thank you, everyone.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks for organising everything, Paul. It's
Does
really
Tuesday. I kind of just threw my hands up and says second Tuesday of the month. Does that
sounds
sound
good.
like it's probably okay?
Yep,
Sure.
works. Yep.
I might. Yeah, I'll juggle my acting away from those, but then I know that. Yeah.
Just an idea about your real-time thing. I don't know if it would be a worse idea or a better idea. Like, would you consider creating like a short, like, you know, you said it'd come in installments type thing, maybe a short video of something or other for people to watch beforehand and then have a meeting about it? Does that sound terrible?
Which one? Real time? Which one?
About real time, you know, you were saying to talk about the real-time strategy game.
Oh, that one. Oh, sorry. Yes.
Sorry, jumping around.
Yeah. No,
like because it would be an extended like series of topics
multi-session.
I don't know.
I don't know. I would have to actually architect it. I'd like to treat it as a project first, and then once I've built it as a project, then I would break it down into stages to develop this project from scratch. But then I'd have an overall view of what's there, and as I develop it, I'd work out how we can add new features meaning new patterns, and showing how they can be done. So it's not something I'd start from scratch and then build up. I'd build the whole thing.
Right.
Then I'd build the course around it. And that's what I'm saying. It is not something I just knock out for the next month.
Oh, right. Excellent.
It's something that would have to take some planning. It'd be a full-on project. But then
we'll come back to it.
I could do a test run on you and then publish it or something like that. I don't know.
Guys, we're going to have Delphi 12.1 coming out soon, so we could do something related to that. There's going to be a new features video. It's always held in the middle of a night, which is a bit of a chaos for our time. But yeah, that's coming up.
That's on the 12th of March. No, that's today. April, early April, 4th of April.
That far away.
Yeah.
It was closer.
I think it's April.
Yeah.
Well, it says free community.
It's good to be able to watch those live, to be able to, just like comment on this. I mean, I've watched a lot of those later when they post them on YouTube, but then you can't ask questions live and chat to people. So yeah, a bit of a pain. So what did you think it was? April.
I'm
April
pretty sure.
Second Tuesday.
Guys, it says community edition is free until you get $5,000 per year in revenue, which means it's not free, but it means that hobbyists it means I could actually use it.
Yeah, and you have to re-register it every 12 months, I think it is. So when you register, it only lasts 12 months, then you need to redo it. But yeah.
That has caught out some people I've seen on Facebook, because people were asking for the community edition to be equal to the latest Delphi edition, and that wasn't the case for quite a while.
Generally, they used to keep it out of sync by like a year.
So then
just to encourage people to get to the latest.
People were using 10.3, for example, and would have some sort of like maybe third-party stuff. Then they get to the end of the year, that doesn't work anymore. Suddenly they've got to use 11, and maybe not all the same third-party stuff is available to work with Community Edition. So then they're like, I'm screwed.
That date, by the way, is 4th of April.
Yeah,
I think it's 11 p.m. our time.
Yeah.
Alrighty. How long is it supposed to go for? it's like 12:30. Yeah, not too bad. I could watch it.
12.1.
That's a pretty vague description. All the only stuff I'm interested in is they said there's a lot of changes to the IDE, but they quite often say that, and it turns out there aren't.
Nothing.
So you don't know until you see it. Sometimes there are, sometimes not. So don't know. It sounds like there's going to be a lot of stuff relating to Rad Studio for C and changes to like Clean Compiler, which I really don't care about. I just I compile for Windows. I run it. I don't care if it's a Clean Compiler or two chickens running around in a pinwheel. Don't care. Just click F9.
Well,
whatever.
If there were 3, then it would be odd. 2 is not odd, it's even. Sorry.
Anywho, yeah, so coming up, if you haven't registered for that, it's easy to search for our Paul McGee there. Posted a forum post on that with the link. A lot of good names though. Michael Cantu, David Millington. I don't know much about the other guys. Ian Barker. Yeah. So, good names anyway.
Probably.
And David's a Perth boy, so good to have one of our locals deep in there.
Well, he's born in Tasmania.
I think he lived here, so Perthish.
We'll claim him.
Yeah. I mean, he spent like 2 or 3 weeks here, something, going around the country to family.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah, I think he's got family here. He's dropped in. Paul, I'm not sure if you were there. The last time we dropped in, we had just caught up, had a bunch of us just caught up with him at a cafe for a couple of hours. So yeah, he does drop by occasionally.
Nice guy.
Yeah.
Smart too, I think.
So, do we need to set a date for the next one, or Paul, you just going to give us a nudge, one month-ish, or do we lock that down to the second Tuesday?
Second Tuesday, I think.
Second Tuesday. Sounds
Look,
good.
the online thing's working okay. We did talk about doing a meeting thing as well, but yeah, we need to think of that. We could always do a hybrid where we meet in person. If you want to meet in person, go there. If not, connect in from home.
Yeah, I mean,
it just means when you're presenting, you've got to be a bit more aware of the remote audience.
One of the nice things about it is the code is clear. So good, when someone's presenting, you can see the code perfectly.
Yeah, it's probably on a bigger screen in front of you.
Yeah.
Percentage of your eye space, yeah.
So hopefully Scott and I will go into Murray Street sometime soon and suss out that.
So do they say that was going to be a freebie for us, or do they want to charge for it?
It said like their formal announcement on LinkedIn was that it was available free. I mean, I don't know if we wanted it for a day, they might have something to say.
Well, they might. Look, we might end up hosting Symposium here again. It's been a few years. It took us 20 years to get that, so I don't want to wait another 20 years to get it again. Yeah, so at some point we might have Symposium. But I don't know. Symposium kind of changed though to be just Melbourne, and then everybody else can remote in. Because Melbourne always has a good size audience. We used to always do 2 cities, but yeah, it's the cost risk of that can break the user group. So having just 1 city instead of 2 is a lot lower financial risk.
A professional venue like that would be a great place for us to collect locally. If it suited them, they might need to use it in the daytime. I'm not sure, but having these strangers just hang around, having a great time for a day.
Well, I think the key thing is just to let them know we appreciate it, and post some things publicly on their Facebook group, thanking them, and in any other social media as well. Just that's kind of helping them a little bit, letting getting a bit more public message out about them.
In that scenario, I mean, someone like Peter, for example, or whoever, could be one of the presenters for the symposium. Also from from a really good, location set up for that sort of thing.
Yeah. So another thing to think about is we could do, like when Symposium comes out, instead of everybody sitting at their own homes, we could all get into one location, go to that venue, so we're all in the same room from Perth, and then we can have some lunch and drinks and go wild and crazy,
fight over prizes.
Yeah. So yeah, that's something to think about. Paul, do you need to bring that to committee, or is it just up to each state to organise that kind of thing?
Just local.
Are they just fine? Particularly if it's a free venue, and we're all paying, the user fee, whatever it is, to attend.
Yeah. No, Sydney apparently get together at the continuity group.
Right.
Or some people they did last year, and anything that builds up the.
Yeah, I don't think they're losing any attendees by doing that. They typically used to have, from Perth going to Melbourne, it was typically myself and I can't remember the guy. The guy used to ride the motorbike.
Yep.
I can't remember his name. He would often be there as well, but he hasn't been going to user group meetings for quite a while. And I was there because I was on the national committee, so they would fly all the committee into Melbourne.
I went to one of them over there. It was pretty good, actually.
Yeah,
in Melbourne.
I really liked it. So just something to think about, Paul. If you want to, we'll need to do a bit of organising around there. We just need one venue. If we can't get a place like that, we can find somewhere else. I'm quite happy to host at my house, sit outside in the barbecue area, or something like that. I mean, it's less drama now because we can always find a huge TV to display it on. I've got a couple of 70 inches around here, 75. So we don't have to worry about how do we project the whole thing and all those kind of dramas. So have a think about it. But we all need to pay the registration fee. If we're going to get together and watch it, we need to individually pay for that.
Yeah,
we'd do that straight.
Otherwise, user group runs out of money, and
you can do that directly as we do now.
We just all register as individuals. But you can stay at home at your own house if you want. But it'd be good to get everyone together. Maybe have a bit of a some kind of lunch based around it. Tricky then because they're gonna have their lunch breaks not gonna match up with us. They're gonna they'll have their lunch break around 10 o'clock our time or 9 o'clock even. But anyway, we'll work it out.
If anyone's interested, I was a bit late for it now, but I'm talking to Embarcadero about we might maybe have some sponsorship to the symposium from them again, from Embarcadero. Like,
well, one of the key sponsorships they always would donate a Delphi license, which was all of the audience have Delphi already, but it was typically the high end ultimate version. So whoever won it had that option of upgrading to the highest version. And from that point on, they're then paying higher license fees. But it got their foot in the door as so that was always a key prize.
I'll just share a screen for 1 second.
Is Ivan still involved on the committee, Paul? He was really the key person, sort of arranging all the
he's
prizes.
Just off it as of the last AGM, but he's been helping Robert, old guy. He gave him a hand with the contacting sponsors and that sort of thing. What's going on here?
But I don't think it's a deal breaker if we don't get the huge number of prizes that we used to. We used to get hundreds. It was a crazy number of prizes. There was a good number of years where you were guaranteed to get a prize. Everybody got a prize. But it's not why people are going.
No.
Just a nice.
Oh, there's our cup. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Yeah.
So there's our cup. But there's the membership report for 5 years of WADUG and registrations for symposiums down here and the speakers. So the total online Melbourne, Sydney, Canberra, Brisbane, Perth. These are the number of people who are attending.
Yep. Is that in person only, or is it? No, that would have to be total, because we don't have that many from WA going over there in person. So yeah, it's online as well.
When we had it here in Perth.
Oh, sorry, that's a membership report, not attendance.
No, attendance. We had 24 people here in Perth and 54.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I'm looking down.
Yeah, it goes down.
Right,
goes downwards.
Okay. Right.
And that was when Peter. That's when you spoke, Peter.
What's that?
Yeah, that's
2018.
I think he's listed twice though, because we had one year where Peter was booked in, but then he got sick and had to pull out. And then the couple of years later, he then did what he was going to do in the first one. Have you
Actually, it was the next year. So
Peter,
2017, I was going to. I had the surgery. 2018, I did it, and then there was one just a year or two ago.
Yeah, that's
21.
Oh, okay, all right. So 20. Yeah. That's why we've only got 3 speakers there in 2017. I think there was someone else. We got maybe we got Marco to do 2 presentations to cover for Peter.
Yeah, I think he did.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Okay. Alrighty. Well, I'm pretty keen on that plan. If you want to ever think about that, Paul, I'm sure we'll be able to work out a venue. And like I say, I'm happy to host at my house if you wanted to do that, just as a just option.
Yeah, absolutely.
But somewhere a bit more central might be better for everyone. But yeah, plenty of time. And I remember last time we did this kind of thing, we rented.
Yeah, we rented a place.
We rented a place in Maylands.
Yeah.
Now, was that when the symposium was actually hosted here? Like, did all the presenters come out?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then, and even then, the cost of that was a bit of a concern. But yeah, now if we've got a free venue option, or hosting at my house free as well, yeah, it keeps the cost right down. I don't think we have to worry about the cost at all, the way things are looking.
Whereabouts are they in Perth? Is it near the train station? Can you walk, or?
Do you know where Miss Maud's is?
Oh yeah, no, just
pretty much right there.
Yeah.
It's
a bit of a walk up from William Street, but not.
It's a couple hundred meters from the Central Underground train station.
Yeah.
So it's walking distance, a couple of blocks.
Yeah.
And you can probably hire one of those electric scooters.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everybody. It's been awesome.
Well, thanks, Paul, for organising it, man. Okay.
Yeah, go on, Paul.
Organising might be a stretch, but
that's all right, mate. Yeah.
We'll go with arrange.
Hey guys, just a reminder, we always have problems with people sign up late for Symposium, and then the committee get concerned about, we're not going to have enough people, and do we have to cancel all this kind of thing. So yeah, if you're going to go to Symposium, just jump online, sign up, now instead of waiting for like the week before.
Good idea.
Is it listed on there? Symposium?
Yeah, registrations are open.
Yeah. Okay, so it's
you have to go to the
$35 if it's online only, $65 in person, $35 if it's online. Okay. So if you go to the you got to go to the ADAP website, members site, and then you can pay on there. So we have registrations open.
Oh yeah, one of the guys talking was in the news agency business, and he had a Windows point of sale program when GST came along, and I wanted to do the same thing, but it was going to be 10 grand. I think it was 10 grand for the software actually. I mean, we bought one beforehand. It was $5,000 for the computer and $5,000 for the software. But we have newspapers that, you know, they go out every day, but there are magazines and they come in all the time, but then they have to, like, they have different lifetimes and stuff. So there was a sticker in a magazine in, like, advertising his program that showed, like, okay, it's got the title, it's got a barcode, it's like the date it arrived, the date it has to go back to the publisher if it isn't sold, the price, you know, is it just the cover, it's the whole, all that sort of thing. That's like, I bought Delphi 5 and wrote the entire program that we used for 15 years around that one sticker, basically. Like, design the database, like, what are we going to need? Like, you know, like how you set out all the tables so that they, like, are efficient about all that stuff, and just created, because I wanted that sticker. So,
Paul, I've got a video recording of this meeting. Do you want to post that? Your call.
yeah, I guess we'll. I mean, if everyone agrees, I'll just
Sounds good.
check with Scott and.
Yeah,
Lex
we need to remind people about that start of the meeting, so I've got a heads up on that.
We'll. I mean, I'm happy to edit it down to, like.
I don't think there's any editing required for this one.
No.
So nothing secret squirrel going on here.
There might have been a bit of intro time at the beginning or something.
No, it was just casual chatter. So
yeah, I figured
Yeah.
maybe.
no, I
Take
think
it
we just post the entire thing.
Sounds good.
Okay. I will. Took ages to download that video last time. I'll get it up next day or two and get it. Do the same thing. I'll put it on my cloud drive. I'll need to get rid of it at some point, but it can stay there for a while.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and we'll maybe through email or something we can figure out the YouTube thing.
Yeah.
Or-
Well, if I pull it down from the cloud drive, I'll probably still store it locally somewhere. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you for organizing, Paul. Well done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Everyone have a good night.
Later,
Okay.
guys.
See you, mate.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks.